My name is Sarah Grimwood, Chair of the Natural Resources Commission, and I'm calling this public meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Tonight's NRC meeting will be a hybrid in-person and Zoom meeting. We have a microphone set up on the Commission table and plans will be projected through the TV monitor. If you're presenting via Zoom, please turn on your audio and microphone when it's time for you to speak. Following the presentation by the petitioner and questions from the Commission, members of the public will have the opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment. Please identify yourself with name and address for the record. You can also raise your hand from your phone by dialing *9 and use *6 to unmute. All video screens will be turned off with the exception of any commissioners attending virtually and the current petitioner. Once the Commission has acted on an application, the petitioner is free to leave the meeting. In the event of any technical difficulties, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will be automatically continued to the July 16th meeting. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. At this time, I would ask the commissioners to introduce themselves, starting with Bill.
Bill Cremeza.
Jim Smith.
And Gary Kleiman.
And Nick Pappas.
Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, so as always, we will start with public comment. This is limited to up to 10 minutes with no more than 2 minutes allocated to any one speaker. Public comment is limited to items that are not on the agenda. Do we have any public comments tonight? No? Okay, so we will next approve meeting minutes from May 14th, 2025. I didn't attend that meeting, so I'm going to abstain. Were there any comments?
Didn't notice anything in the minute. They looked like good minutes.
Looked fine to me. I read them over, Jim.
Move approval.
Yeah.
Was
Nice.
that the one, Karen,
No.
was that the one I sent you comments on?
Nick had a couple of
Nick has some comments. Okay.
Still move approval.
Yep.
All right, I second Nick's motion. You just Nick.
Jim?
I'm
Jim.
sorry. Nick. thought-
Nick usually says that.
Nick usually does. Sorry, Jim.
Jim moved as amended. Bill seconded.
We'll go to the vote. Bill,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Harry,
Aye.
Nick.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. And next we have commissioners' comments, if there are any tonight.
Well, I just want to say that I think you have received or you will receive the proposal from the Warner's Pond Task Force. Have they
So
received it?
I haven't sent it because I'm waiting for that final
That one.
change.
It's a very small
Yeah.
change. We'll get it out to you this week. It's just
Okay.
a couple of words. So it's been completed. And they're hoping to appear before the committee, the Natural Resources Commission on July 16th.
Yeah.
I hope you have a next chance to read it over by then.
And
There's also a lot of information on the Warner's Pond
Yes.
Task Force website.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
yeah, and just so the commissioners know that the task force asked if they could come tonight, and we said no, we prefer more time so that we can actually read it and dig into the documents.
Right, and if you don't know, one of the things that one of our last pieces of business was that there were a number of, we had a complaint about the open meeting law, we had a number of minutes that were not posted or lost in the shuffle. But remember, there were over 50 some meetings that we had over the past year. So a number of the small groups didn't get posted, so we made sure they're just about all done now and up and posted.
Great.
They'll be done by July 7th.
They'll be done by July 7th.
Great, okay, thank you. Delia, director's update, please.
So I was going to mention the Warner Pond Task Force report. Thank you, Bill. The Two Revolutions Trail, I wanted to mention that this has been something that the commission has been aware of off and on over the years. It's a proposed trail that the Thorough Farm Trust is very interested in seeing. It goes from the Battle Road Trail and it goes north to the Thorough Farm Trust land. It's about a mile-long trail, crosses extensive wetlands on town land, Park Service land, and the Elm Brook Homeowners Association that has a conservation restriction that the NRC holds that allows for a publicly accessible trail. They received, Kerry awarded ARPA funds or recommended, I don't know how that all works, but ARPA funds have been put towards the preliminary design, and I'll be issuing that RFP next week for preliminary design of the trail and the bridge. With the expectation is that the work will be completed within a year. All those ARPA funds have to be spent by December 2026.
Now, does that have to come before us because you're recrossing wetlands? And not everyone's gonna be happy, but for
Yeah.
example, me, I mean, that cuts a huge piece across a major area of wetlands. In that trail, and I've walked it, I know exactly what
I
you're
know.
talking about.
Yep. So the first thing, this RFP includes an order of resource area delineation.
Okay.
That'll be the first order of business for the commission. Just to review, approve the wetland boundary so that the alignment can be kind of finessed to be in the least impactful place, but I think, you know, there will be comments.
Is there any way
about
around,
that.
have you ever noticed any way around that huge marsh? Yeah.
But it'll be evaluated.
Okay,
I mean,
we'll
it has
check
to
it
be at the narrowest possible crossing.
Mm.
When Marcia Rasmussen left, she, as everybody knows, Bruce Freeman Rail Trail was her baby. She has done tremendous work with it. There was a little tiny section of the Bruce Freeman Phase 2D, which is Powder Mill Road to the
Mhm.
Sudbury Town Line.
Mhm.
That was just outstanding.
Yeah.
Little minor punch list items that have just been kind of outstanding. Final walkthrough was last week.
Oh.
The trail is open officially. With the exception, there's a fence, and it's a little complicated because Phase 2C was from Commonwealth Ave to Powder Mill Road, and the town wanted it to go all the way down.
Yeah.
But FHWA says you have to have you have to end it at a terminus. So it had to end at Powder Mill Road, or
You can't have a trail to nowhere.
you can't have a trail to nowhere, so they, because it was closed, DOT installed a fence. And that is part of Phase 2C, and so when we did the final punch list, I said, well, I thought this fence was, you were supposed to remove the fence and those end signs.
Mhm.
And they said, well, that's part of Phase 2C, it's not under this contract, so we're, I'm like, but you put it in because we couldn't continue, anyway, so we'll get that resolved. There's an opening in the fence, you know, so you can go through it,
Yeah, okay.
but if you see that, it will get taken care of.
The signs, but
So
the
there's-
fence is open, but the
there's-
signs are still there saying.
There are
Yeah.
3 end signs, they're
Right.
about that big.
Yeah.
Those need to come down.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then there's 2 sections, so the culvert.
Yeah.
And then 2 sections of fence come
Fence.
like this, and you have about a 2-foot gap or 3-foot
Yeah.
gap that you can get through without any trouble, but we need that fence
The
gone.
rest needs to go.
And
But I
then
mean, for a long time, the fence was blocking. passage.
Correct.
Now there is at least that.
open
but-
passage, yeah, exactly. And as part of this, because the Bruce Freeman is like officially open now, once we're in the next fiscal year, July 1, Karen and I are working on purchasing some signs to place. If you've walked along that section of Phase 2D where
Mhm.
the trail goes to one of our Concord trails, we have a gap in the fence with a kind of, it's like one of those cattle guards that you have to.
Yeah.
So we didn't want bikes to just fly off the rail trail but we have a bike rack
Mm.
there, but I'm gonna put up metal.
By White Pond or?
Yes, by White
Yeah.
Pond, sorry. I'm gonna put up metal, no swimming signs and metal,
Mhm.
no bikes on White Pond trails.
Mhm.
And then we'll put no swimming signs around stations, which we did that a few years ago and even the metal signs get pulled up and thrown in the woods, so
Well,
without the ranger,
yeah,
you know, we're doing what we can.
Yeah.
But, so that's
Okay.
that, and then, on a very happy note, we have a trails committee member, Bauke Nordage, who is very interested in bluebirds. He's constructed some bluebird boxes. You know, we have bluebird boxes at Haywood Meadow, and he's taken over stewardship of, we have 26 boxes. And you can't have a bluebird box without stewarding it, because the house sparrows are so brutal.
yeah,
This year with his monitoring and sweeping for house sparrows, 24 bluebird chicks were fed.
Oh, that's
pretty amazing.
I know,
Mhm.
I know.
Oh, I wish I could have success in my yard. I just get rid of sparrow eggs
Yeah.
after sparrow eggs after sparrow eggs.
So he has this great little camera that he just sort of puts up into the bottom of the box.
That's excellent.
I know, and so that's just, he sent me that report a few weeks ago, and I just wanted to share that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and that's it for me.
fantastic, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so we have a number of 2 continued without discussion today. Could I have a motion?
Yeah,
please?
I move that we continue without discussion to July 16. NOI DEP file 1371699 at 777 Virginia Road, 43A Virginia Road, 48X Virginia Road, and 58B Old Bedford Road. As well as DEP file 1371686 110 Spencer Brook Road.
Continuing to August 27th.
For that one.
Oh, that's, oh, sorry. So do you need two motions? Or can I?
No.
We can do it all in one, I think, as long as you make it clear.
Okay, so just the first,
Okay.
and
And
Jim,
that
you
was
seconded it?
second, Jim, thank you. And the vote, Bill,
Aye.
Jim,
All right,
Gary,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
thank you, and I'm an aye as well.
And then I would move that we continue to August 27 without discussion, DEP file 1371686 110 Spencer Brook Road.
second.
Thank you, and the vote, Bill,
Aye.
Jim,
All right,
Gary,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. Thank you very much. Okay, so our first continuance for tonight is an NOI for 18A College Road. This is DP file 1371690. Who do we have for this one?
Someone here?
which one is on?
We're
The
starting.
Nurse Neck Hill,
Perfect.
Nurse Hill, yes.
yeah.
Yes,
it's there.
I am here,
Would you like to,
Represent or,
was expecting.
Well,
Okay.
probably somebody who's,
or
yeah.
maybe they're here.
maybe they're online?
Yep. See David here, yep.
Hello, yeah, and Lindsay Webb is here as well. She should be turning on.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Hi.
this is,
I'm here.
okay, do you want me to just start? This is a continuation from last fall.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. And so I guess the commission had some questions, and then this has been spread out quite a bit with some back and forth, and Lindsay being out on maternity. So, but anyway, we're appreciative of an opportunity to come back and address any questions that the commission had. And I think we've kind of tried to address these with the presentation of a map of the Nurse Neck Hill property that would be.
So David, do you or Lindsay want to share your screen, or would you like me to do that?
If you have it up, maybe that's easier to control.
Yeah.
Yeah, just give me a second. I'm not sure why it's not. You can keep talking. I'll get to that map.
Okay, I think that was one of the big questions was the map itself, the area, so that the treatment would be limited to this approximately 1 acre area of the 4 acre pond. And that is owned by the Nurse Neck Hill Association. And we would not be treating any other properties. Lindsay,
Right.
you want to narrate, tell Delia what she's looking at or which map you want us?
Yeah, you can keep, I think it's down a little farther.
That shows the treatment area.
Yep,
Yes.
that's the 18A College Road parcel, where the treatments would take place within.
Alright.
But the prior map shows where the extent of the,
Right, so when we did the survey, we surveyed the entire pond to see what was growing there. After the survey, it was found that the pond was treated with dicot prior to the survey. So the vegetation that we found was pretty limited in diversity, but that was our original survey when we went out to look at the site and kind of see what was going on. That doesn't mean that that's exactly where we're treating.
right, and so the treatment area is then in the next one, it would be just the lower left corner of the pond. So I think it looks like about half, maybe 40% of the aerial extent.
Mhm.
But they said an acre, right?
Right.
Looks like it's bigger than an acre, doesn't it?
Yeah, a bit more than an acre, and it's oversight on my part. I'm sorry that that's not on the map, but I can provide that as a supplemental piece.
Did any of the commissioners have any questions about the write-up on the various options for treatment?
You know, I mean, I understand the response that
Mhm.
it's a US regulatory process that we follow, so, would have been interested in how the EU is viewing these chemicals, but it's fine.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that comment.
I said
mean,
it would have been interesting to know how the EU deals with these two chemicals, but it's fine. I understand that the US regulatory policy is what guides the United States and Massachusetts under that, but Concord has some subjective ability to decide what's appropriate in Concord as well, and so I just would have been interested in the information, but
Well, we can discuss it. I mean, we certainly have collected and gathered, we've gathered some information on it and have an understanding of this because the EU is commonly referred to as these EU bans, and they're not really well understood, but they sound really important, and they do affect the tone of the discussion on chemistry being used. So the bans apply to crop production. So this is largely agricultural food production. The restrictions do not migrate outside of that, so that aquatic uses are not regulated in the same manner as the agricultural uses are. And so this would be Diquat and Roundup are big. The other one is the neonicotinoids that are highly regulated. And so these bans have been applied to these various products. And then the part that's little known about that is they have these, what they refer to as derogations, which are exceptions to these restrictions. And neonicotinoids are the number one product that are used with derogation, and Diquat is the number two product. So it's still widely used by exception, but we don't talk about that. So in a lot of ways, this is leveraged in discussions here in the States, without understanding the detail that the EU can do this as a no-cost freebie giveaway, and then turn around and allow these uses otherwise to be done, which is not widely discussed or known, but that's specifically to Diquat in this discussion. The other alternative products that we looked at are not as regulated or not banned. They do have some restricted uses, and it's primarily because they're not entirely suitable for agriculture. They're a little too broad spectrum, and they tend to be a little too effective from a soil perspective. So, agriculture likes burn down products like Roundup, glyphosate, and Diquat because they're desiccants or top kill type herbicide chemistries. So that's where those uses come in. The other two products we looked at, flumioxazin, has a great profile. It is registered and used in Massachusetts. There is a restriction because of its potential for resistance. So it's allowed to be used in a single year, and then there's a 2-year layoff. And that can be done. There's some sensitivity to pH where it breaks down quickly in high pH water bodies. So it would depend on water chemistry a lot as far as whether that would be a good selection. But that is an opportunity that's available. The other products, Imazapyr or Imazamox are things that we'd look at. Those are ALS chemistries. They're slow reacting. They're very good at killing plants that have robust storage organs is really where they come in. Good on things like Japanese knotweed and things that have big tubers. And they work well in aquatic settings, except they're incredibly slow, 8 to 10 weeks before you get any kind of a necrosis of the plant tissue. So we could treat it and conceivably go through a couple months of summer without having any real noticeable impact on the plants. So it might be good for things like water lilies and things where you're trying to control a select amount of lilies that might be creating a hindrance for recreational use, and still trying to leave a certain amount for fish cover. But in terms of trying to control types of weeds that we see in this water body, it would be a little too slow and would not, deliver the benefit that the management plan is trying to achieve. So I hope that
So
kind of
what I'm
helps.
hearing is that your sense is that these are still the two best chemicals to be using, the diquat and copper algicide, given the available options.
Yes, yeah, and I would
Yeah.
also note from a prescriptive management perspective, these are tools that are used, and in this case, we don't have history with working on this pond, but historically with other contractors, they've been used intermittently as part of an integrated management program where they're doing a single year treatment, and then there's a multi-year layoff with a threshold where the plants would recover to whatever that threshold is, where they become a nuisance level, and then they respond again with the chemistry. So it's been used maybe, off and on a year, and then I think 3 or so year layoff on that. So again, it's a tool that's used judiciously. So we still think this is kind of a good, a good prescription for them, and it's practical, and it's a good tool as an alternative to, say, benthic barriers, where that would be a fantastic cost and cover, and covering that percentage of the benthic habitat would be detrimental. And then the mechanical harvesting for such a small area would just not be practical, and it would be incredibly disruptive, in addition to just fragmenting a lot of the plant and spreading it further. So we just kind of think that this is a very practical approach. It's measured and it's used quite judiciously. So it makes the most sense.
Understood. Yeah, the reason that I had requested information on how the EU looks at this is, as you call them blanket bans. I think the EU prefers a regulatory approach that embraces the precautionary principle. When you don't have hard scientific data, you don't allow its use until you can prove that it's safe. The US takes a different regulatory stance and basically allows chemicals unless they can be proven to cause harm, a very different burden of proof.
Mhm.
However, I do notice that Massachusetts has approved the use of these things. Massachusetts, I know folks in the Department of Public Health in Massachusetts trust them a lot more. So, if it's approved by Massachusetts, I'm okay with it, but I would be very interested in hearing what residents think about it. So I think there are some folks in the audience. So when we get to public comments, I'd be interested to hear their
Before we
take.
go to public comment, are there any other questions or comments from the commissioners?
So does this affect the swimming in the pond at all during a certain period of time between the time that you apply the chemicals and people use the pond?
There are no recreational use restrictions associated with this chemistry. So we ask, we cannot by law restrict water use during application. We usually request that water body be closed for efficiency and safety of the operation. But in accordance with the label, somebody could be swimming next to the boat. Not recommended, but it's certainly,
Will
with
the
it-
neighbors be notified when you're going to be doing this?
we do have to notify all of the property owners and abutters.
Great, okay, thank you.
It's a part of an association, so every association member will be notified.
Yeah.
It's a
Thank you.
jointly owned.
Yep.
And I would indeed agree with the assessment of Mass DEP's review of chemistry. It's one of the best programs in the country.
Oh, I don't have any more questions.
Okay. I'll go to public comment then, if there are any, please.
Any public comments on this application?
No.
Okay.
Okay. You don't see any, do you? Yep. So, so I think we're ready to, we're not ready to close,
We
but
don't have an order
we
ready.
don't have an order ready, but, you don't actually have to attend the next meetings for us to be able to do that. So that'll be granted on, closed and issued on the 16th of July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Great.
all right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you,
very
David and
much.
Lindsay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, next up we have Concord Country Club at 246 Old Road to 9 Acre Corner. This is DEP file 1371698. Now again,
Again, Jeffrey Brem, representing Mass Brem Corporation. Greg Carter with, go ahead, Greg.
Concord Country Club?
And with Peter Rapuccio online. We need him.
Okay.
We've got a busy agenda, so I'll be quick. Last time we met, we went over the mitigation part of the tree clearing. If you recall, we went from 31 trees down to 11 trees. To be cut, 3 trees to be topped. There was discussion that the mitigation wasn't enough. And so we concurred and agreed to add a lot more red oaks in response to the botanist, the wetland specialist Dave Crossman's letter. And then the quantity was determined to be doubled, 22. We had 3 cherry trees, which were retaining, and then we're gonna do 19 red oak trees. Then there were gonna be saplings, so they can not make a mess of the hill as they go up there with the excavators or large equipment. They'd be basically hand planted, hand carried, hand planted. And Delia yesterday asked what size saplings, and I went and spoke to Peter, spoke to Greg, talked to New England Plant LLC or something, New England Wetland Plants. And they have a northern red oak for sale. Saplings, they come different sizes. The biggest one they have is 4 to 6 feet high, so we chose that one. So they'd be 4 to 6 foot. That's how they're labeled.
so what's the caliber on that?
It's no real caliber, it's 4 to 6
Okay,
feet.
just 4 to 6 feet, and is that sufficient?
That's pretty small. So you have 2-inch caliper black cherries and you know, I mean, that's a 2-inch caliper is, you know, it's probably like a 6 to 8 foot, is that 8 to 10?
It's more like 8 to 10 foot.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty small, 4 to
Yeah.
6. 4 to 6 foot or inch?
4 to 6 feet.
4 to 6 feet. Yeah,
Really
That's-
small.
yeah.
No, 4 to 6 feet, and
4 to 6,
just so
that's
you
not-
know, I had to plant 492 of these type of trees with New England Wetland Plant
Mhm.
before, we had to recreate a forest of an acre and a half, and they planted well, and the forest was recreated, no problem. So the plants that New England Wetland Plants provide are good plants, and you have the country club that's there for 100 years, and I'm sure if they don't take hold,
Well, that's in the order of conditions. If they don't take hold within 2
Exactly.
years, you would have to replace them at your expense.
we have no problem with that. It's
Is
not
it-
like they're going away or moving or anything.
Was the thought that they were gonna provide shade for the vernal pools soon or not? Is that part of the problem with the
Well, I
size?
mean, I actually think that it's probably fine. If it's a 5-foot average, I
Yeah.
think that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean,
I would agree.
Yeah.
and the
The,
red oak.
the
trees
goal
will-
is for them to grow over time. It's
Yeah,
not that-
and they will
Right.
provide benefit to
Yeah.
wildlife.
Okay,
However
In there,
small they
all
are,
the
right?
other trees
Yeah.
are still
Yeah.
there.
yeah, okay.
Not-
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm
I'm good with
super
that.
happy to get additional oaks.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
fantastic, actually. Yes,
Those are the big leaves, by the way, the northern red oak,
yeah,
giant leaves.
yeah. So I believe that covers everything that we had asked for. Are there any other comments from the commissioners?
Just to note that, we're, happy that condition from Joan Ferguson's
Oh, yes,
comment
thank
was
you.
added.
Thank you,
So
Gary. Yes,
with that, really happy with the compromise that we have worked out here. A little
Yeah.
bit less
And just for the
pine
record, that is
and
a special condition to
yeah.
ensure that mowing, weed whacking and removal of woody material from jurisdictional woodland areas is not permitted, so that's a special condition. And the idea is to just keep the
Yeah,
habitat.
litter.
Yeah, I mean, so
System.
you can keep the golf course itself maintained, but the woodlands, just, you know, whatever is
As long as
there,
you guys
the
get-
sticks and the pine needles and everything else, just.
Yeah, sure, you send you over the thing about the tree that came down.
I don't think I've seen that, no.
When you were on the sidewalk, we were looking at that tree, he said, oh, you can prune that tree.
Mhm.
Well, that was one that, then it fell over completely.
Okay.
It went completely over, so now I was just laying there.
Perfect.
Well, portion of
Yeah,
it.
perfect.
Well, some of it went one way.
Good
some the
habitat.
other way, so that's right. A couple of different directions.
Yeah.
Okay, so are there any public comments on this application?
Have one online, Sharon?
Okay,
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much. I wanted to first thank the Country Club for their education of club members that you've done quite a lot with in the past years on the property's vernal pools in general and the blue spotted salamanders in particular. This education has been truly excellent. And if any of the members of the commission haven't seen the National Audubon Cooperative Sanctuary Program certification, I encourage you to look at it, especially the back page, which is very impressive on vernal pools and blue spotted salamander habitat. You'll love the photos and the education message that the Country Club has been conveying. But please go the next step. In addition to education, how about stewarding this habitat so it can thrive and provide climate and ecological benefits for your club, its membership, and the broader community of Concord? The vernal pools that are the subject of this NOI evolved in a forested area, essential to the hydrology and microclimate that the pools and their inhabitants require. The microclimate they have adapted to includes shade, dapple, sunlight, and a cooling effect. Unfortunately, the club's development of upland overwintering areas, the use of chemicals in the subwatershed to the vernal pools, and past tree removal in the area have greatly impacted the hydrology and microclimate of the pools, compromising the health of them and the survival of the salamanders, frogs, and invertebrate inhabitants. So I want to ask just a couple questions. Has the NRC fully considered how impactful and actually unnecessary this tree cutting is for the purpose of enabling the club's grass? Shade-tolerant grass can grow well, and it's chemical-free. In a chemical-free environment, it has biologically rich soils, and it works. Second question would be, how large are the trees being cut? Cutting any number of trees, especially those of large size, will further alter the microclimate these vernal pools have evolved in, increasing sunlight and heat reaching the pools, further degrading their productivity and even viability. And please consider that the trees you are topping off will have shortened lifespans. The NRC has full legal authority to deny the permit, require shade-tolerant grass, and issue an enforcement order requiring restoration of remaining upland habitat. The plantings what you're planting are extraordinary. They're wonderful. They should be in addition, however, to what's already there now, the grown trees, and they should be part of the restoration that should be done to restore the parts of the habitat that have been altered, affecting the viability of the vernal pools. Please include in the NRC decision that the club update their National Audubon Cooperative Sanctuary Program certification with new actions to educate their membership about vernal pools and the importance of protecting them. And again, if you could please do as much as you can to steward this beautiful part of your property. Thank you.
thank you, Sharon. Would you like to respond to that? On the education piece particularly?
The education piece, I think she likes, so there's nothing to respond to that one. As
Well, I
far
think it's
as-
just whether you're going to continue.
Yeah, we do continue to notify people, and we just came out, they just did our visit for our Audubon recertification last week.
Okay,
And
great.
so when we get that, we will notify our membership as well. When
Thank
that
you.
process, when that final paperwork comes through, so we do notify our membership of all of those areas. And our members are aware of the conditions of our property and what we do, the stewardship of our area.
because they're all residents of Concord.
Of course, yeah, thank
Well, the
you,
majority, I should say.
thank you. I believe we've discussed this for several meetings now, and we did do a site visit, so we have considered it very carefully. Are there any other comments from the commission before we close? No?
No.
No, were there any other public comments? No. Okay, so I believe we're ready to close an issue. Who has that one?
Okay, so I think I have that. I move that we close the hearing and issue an order of conditions with findings. This is for DEP file 137-1698 at 246 Old Road in Onacre Corner, Concord Country Club, with findings A and B with standard conditions 1 through 20 and special conditions 21 through 50.
Second.
Thank you, Gary, and the vote. Bill?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Number one bar.
One country club to another country club.
So now we have an NOI continuance for one, I could never say, how do you say
Nashotah.
Nashotah, thank you, Nashotah Country Club, 1861 Sudbury Road, DP file 1371711. Who do we have for this one?
So we, first of all, we have a file number
Yep,
that Mr. Hughes never solved,
Hmm.
but we sent him everything again. Secondly, if you recall, the last time, the reason why we had to file was because the club wanted to just change the angle of the existing pool, and they were deciding whether they wanted to dig up the old pool and put in a new one.
Mhm.
And that was long discussions for months, and they decided to finally said, we're ripping up the whole decking, we're changing all the piping. It'd be kind of crazy to do all that and find a leak a year or two after the fact, so they decided to go ahead and full force and we changed the entire well, the diving well and the swimming pool. And that's the plan you have now, it kind of lines up better with the clubhouse, it's not at an odd angle. And the last thing we had talked about, I think at the meeting, the only thing was left was what was going on with the lighting.
Yeah.
And your office, Delia and staff asked us to do a photometric plan, not just with the new lights, but with the existing lights. Wasn't so easy. The plan now, it's not people had to climb up and get the bulb sizes, the colors and so forth. And then it had to go out to a specialist, not normally these are done by the photogrammetry is done by the people that provide the lights.
Mhm.
But because we have lights that are existing, so we had to get a special lighting company to do that, and then they did a photometric plan. Delia also found a mistake on one of the plans by the gate, near the restrooms. And that was adjusted, it was wrong, it was wrong on the plan. And it's the way that the fixture was set up was wrong in the computer program. And so that you have now, and that's what you see there. The red areas show existing versus the new ones. And Delia and I talked on the phone, and some of the existing lighting is non-wildlife, not dark sky compliant. And the club's already agreed in a letter to you that says when they replace them, all fixtures would be dark sky compliant.
Yes, thank you for that. Yeah.
So I think that's where we are at
Yeah,
finally. I say finally only because of the state lost the plans, not because of you.
Right. And just so the commissioners were, staff to make a comment about Two Cedars, and that's actually not a relevant comment because they're going to be trimmed, not removed.
Oh,
We don't-
Cedars are very
So we don't need to worry about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So I believe we are there, unless there are any other comments from the commissioners.
The only comment I would make is just on the lighting plan, while I appreciate that it was probably not easy to put this plan together, not all country clubs are on such backing up directly to such a sensitive wildlife. I mean,
Yeah.
you're right on the Sudbury River.
Yeah.
So I
We have
appreciate-
neighbors on the other side.
Yes, we've heard from neighbors both here and when I was previously
Mhm.
on the planning board, so lighting is an issue in this
Absolutely.
area for wildlife and for people. So thank you.
Do you know whether is this golf club nationally Audubon certified
I
like the
do
other?
not know.
Hmm.
I do not know. Sorry.
That'd be an interesting thing to see if they would consider pursuing that, even if it's not. I'm not sure there's anything we can do about that.
Because Concord Country Club has
Is-
done that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be a nice thing. So,
I could certainly ask
Could you
them,
find out?
mention that.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
And
And encourage them to pursue it.
let Delia know.
Great, thank
Yeah,
you.
if you want to keep up with
On
the
the
other country
wildlife,
clubs.
the wildlife fixtures, the agreement is as they.
right, they're not replacing them now. It's only as they.
Because it's not part of this
fixtures run.
application, so
Right.
we can't
Correct.
require that, but they have agreed that,
No, I understand that part. I'm just trying to I was just trying to figure out what they were saying.
Yeah.
And they changed the timing and they've got to put time
Yes.
and everything, and the lights in the parking lot are already dark sky compliant. That was done about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And the big problem right now is the ones on the tennis court, but when they go to change those, they'll be dark sky compliant as well.
fantastic.
You know, and having dealt with Nishawta, I mean, I know they're good stewards, but like, you know, they'll be back again and again, both at planning board and here. And so from my perspective, I'm happy with the fact that as things fail
Mm.
and they're replaced, there's a commitment, you know, we're raising awareness that the lighting in this area for habitat preservation matters and
Yep.
that they're committing to shift towards dark sky compliant and wildlife friendly lighting is great.
All the more reason why if they're coming back again to talk about
Exactly.
national Audubon.
I will-
Yes,
certification.
exactly.
That'll go a long way.
That will.
Do we have any public comments tonight on this application?
I
No.
did have one question. This is Catherine Brustowitz. I'm one of the neighbors right across the Sudbury River from the Nishawta Country Club. I just want to say that I really do appreciate the country club's commitment to habitat preservation and, you know, the promise to shift to dark skies compliance, you know, as you are replacing the light fixtures. That's wonderful. I did have one quick question. I read the letter, and it indicated that it will take 18 months to install timers on the additional exterior lights that are facing the river. And I'm just curious as to why it will take so long to install those timers.
And they said up to 18 months, I believe, the last, they did install a bunch of timers around on the tennis courts.
Yes.
So I think it's the ones that are on the pool area and it's related to the pool construction. They want to use obviously the same vendors and that'll all be happening at the same time. So it's really related to the pool construction.
Mhm.
Believe it or not, they see years ahead of time. We're way behind what they normally see. This is a fall project.
Mhm.
And I know it just turned summer, but from here, they gotta go out to finish the contract documents, they gotta get bids. And they're rushing on their end to get this done in the fall so that it'll be ready for Memorial Day next year.
Okay.
Seems like it's a long timeline, but there's a lot of work in between.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Would it be possible to get the timers installed now and then in the fall, when the construction begins, simply turn off those timers so that as it is related to the pool construction, they'd be able to deactivate them?
I don't think so because, well, last week we met with all the experts on the utilities and they don't know exactly where all the stuff is right now either. They're doing a full inventory of where all the electrical connections are and so forth. So I don't wanna say yes and then have it some reason that I don't know of not happening.
What
I
if you
will-
could look into
I
it?
will
That would be
definitely,
appreciated.
yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank
As
you very
quick as
much. I
possible.
appreciate it.
Certainly, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Are there any other public comments tonight? No? Okay, so I believe we're gonna issue at the next meeting because we're not ready tonight to close an issue. That's correct? You don't have to be here.
Well, actually, it would be helpful to just have a response to that question on the timers if you could.
Yeah, I'll have
Okay.
that. I won't be around anyway. I'll be traveling on July 12th. Well,
It's July 16th.
yeah, I'm leaving on the 12th.
Hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
16, yeah.
I will
So,
get
so
you
we'll
an answer on the timer.
Okay.
And on,
continue to
Yeah,
the
thank you.
16th
Yeah.
and then hopefully close that night. Okay,
Yep.
Great.
and if there's anything you need in between, Delia and I talk kind of regularly.
Okay,
Nice,
thank you.
Jeff.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, so we have one new application this evening. This is for Milldam Square condominium at 100 Keys Road, DP file 1715. Good evening.
Good evening. Hello, everybody.
Okay.
My name is Luma Tip. I'm a project engineer at GPR, Goldsmith Preston Ringwall. I'm here tonight as a representative for the Mill Dam Square condominium.
Sorry, I'm having trouble seeing my screen. I have too many windows open, but give me 1 second and I'll open it.
Is it okay if I just lay out the plan in front of me, just so I can speak as I?
Oh, please.
Sure.
But you'll want to reference the one on the screen, yes.
So that people can see.
Yeah, come up. Here we go.
There we go. All right. So the project is located at 100 Keys Road, which is just down the street. For the condominium.
Just call it Kai's Road, because nobody else is gonna know what you're saying.
Yeah.
We've been calling in the office, Keys Road.
Well,
I know. People do.
People do, but if you knew Jonathan Kai's.
Yeah.
I know.
I appreciate the correction. I'm only covering for Bruce.
No,
worries.
he would know it was gonna, anyway.
The strange part is he's the one who's selling me his keys.
Yeah.
Well, alrighty. 100 Kai's Road, which is located down the street.
Mhm.
The proposed project is looking to mill and resurface the existing pavement that's on site for the two main parking lot area, as well as the driveway access, coming up into the condominium. The proposed project site is located abutting an existing bordering vegetated wetland that you see on the left-hand side of the sheet over there on the northern portion of the site. There is bordering vegetated wetland, so 100-foot buffer is located on site, shown on the plan there. Additionally, we also have the Mill Brook located on the other side of the road. As you can see, the dashed line at the top of the sheet there, on the eastern portion. Therefore, we have 200-foot rear front area that projects onto the project site. Additionally, because Millbrook runs along, nearby, there is also a 100-year floodplain that is shown. A little bit tough to see, but if you look, it starts at the bottom of the sheet there.
Can you, where's, I'm looking for it ideally, you should.
I've got to move windows out of the way just a second, zoom in a bit.
So starting from that line that's,
There it is. Okay.
Okay.
so starting from the line that's at the bottom of the sheet, you can follow it as it goes up and it wraps around the side of the building there. And projecting, covering over the existing driveway access onto the road. So the proposed project will not introduce new impervious area. It will be limited to resurfacing anything that's existing impervious area, as well as providing cleaning schedule for the existing catch basin on site. Fixing two of the catch basin as well as an inlet pipe that's been crushed. On top of that, we'll also be introducing the CDS unit, a continuous deflective separation unit located at the side of the driveway, where the existing catch basin is now. The CDS unit will do a pretty good job at removing the sediment in this area, and we'll provide schedule for regular maintenance for the unit itself. In addition to all that, and as I was told during the sidewalk, there was some concern about debris and leaves gathering up at the swale at the top, at the, I guess, right-hand side of the driveway access as you're coming in. In that section, we're also proposing hand removal of the debris and all the leaves in that area as part of the project proposal. I think that's the bulk of the project summary. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Remind me again about what kind of surface we're putting down? What kind of surface will it be?
It's just milling and overlaying pavement.
Oh,
Mhm. So thank you for agreeing to, for acknowledging the debris that's there and that you're going to remove it. Because the debris is there, it was actually difficult to confirm the boundary, so we're gonna have a finding that this couldn't actually be confirmed,
Yeah,
correct?
but it's
Yeah.
fine to proceed with the application, and it's more extensive than what is shown on the plan, it's along the entire wetland boundary.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so I think just a special condition to note that.
Okay.
And actually, I think, make a note on the plan that it should be done by hand,
Mhm.
so it's clear. Sometimes contractors pay more attention to the plan than the
That's all right.
conditions.
Any questions or comments?
There's
from
a- there's a-
commissioners?
The comment here in the thumbnail that says, will work remain at the same grade and existing as existing, which I didn't know if that was a question or a comment, or you were always saying it is gonna be at the same, it seems like it is at the same grade.
It is, yeah, so I don't know if I sort of didn't write that clearly, but it's proposed to be at the same elevation, so no change in the floodplain.
Mhm. I guess when it followed the term questions and concerns, I just didn't think it was a question or a
Oh.
concern, since if it was actually gonna be at the
That's
same
true.
grade.
That's true.
Just a statement.
It's a
It's
statement.
a statement.
I said, by notice, this is a statement
Mhm.
or question.
Is there any benefit in having a pervious surface there instead of just putting down a hard surface? Or is it just not worth the
I
trouble?
think unless they're willing to propose it, I don't think you could require it. Yeah.
I think the challenge with pervious surface is that, you would have to also dig up the base of the impervious surface to actually put down material. And being that we're within 100-foot floodplain, and high groundwater.
That's
it's gonna be
true,
tough.
that's true, that's true, that's right, okay.
Okay, if there's no more commissioner comments, I'll open up for any public comment, please. Ms. Eugenia?
No, I don't know.
Okay, so are we ready to close
No.
this one? We didn't, no, so this one will continue to the next,
Yeah, but you don't need to, just if you provide the revised plan with that note. And then the stormwater management.
The O&M.
The O&M plan,
Mhm.
just with the CDS unit, frequency of monitoring and the signature, then,
and the
yeah.
signature, yeah.
Okay. Do you believe we need to attend the next meeting to close it out?
No.
Okay.
No,
Good, well said.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Do you need to, do I need to sit for the continuation vote or?
No,
No,
you've agreed to it, yeah.
So we'll close an issue at the next meeting,
Yeah.
but materials need to be submitted by, for July
Materials-
16.
July 16th have to be in, actually a week from today, close of
week from
business
today.
next Wednesday.
I'll try to get it in before the end of this week.
Right,
We'll
yeah,
get
we're
that.
closed on Thursday and Friday next week, so.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, very good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Me too.
Okay, so now we're moving to certificates of compliance with the first one being 449 Strawberry Hill Road. This is DP file 1371538.
I'm just having trouble reading there's like two different certificates.
Right, so
around
the
here.
second one is
And-
160 Adams Road. I did a bad cut and paste.
Oh,
The first one is yes, the first one is 160 Adams.
Okay.
Yes,
That's what I was lost.
sorry.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jin Zhang. I'm the owner of the 449 Strawberry Hill Road.
Mhm.
I think I hire an engineer.
Yes, hey everybody, Robert Melvin here with Stamsky McNary.
and Robert,
Good evening.
Good evening. So I guess I'll start just giving just reviewing a few issues that had been noted by
Mhm.
Delia. We'd spoken earlier this week about I'll just share my screen really quickly. Okay, so the first issue that was noted here, we have an excess of pavement beyond what was approved on the plan. I believe that to be this area here. Acts as more of a turnaround spot for the driveway. And then our approved retaining wall location, it was supposed to be constructed along the existing edge of pavement. It was actually constructed adjacent to the existing edge. So the wall extends about 2 feet closer to the wetland than was approved.
Mhm.
And we we're coming to you with, you know, sort of a suggestion, on how we can move forward with these two specific items. And, you know, after discussion with the applicant, you know, we're prepared to offer some additional, mitigation, plantings in this area here, or really any area on site that, you know, may be lacking. And then as well as we'd like to offer some stormwater management. One idea we had was to sort of construct a infiltration trench along the wall, along the inside of the wall, I should say the driveway side. So this trench would collect runoff coming from the driveway. And then, you know, we could extend it, you know, probably about as far as the wall is here. So those are just two of our suggestions on, you know, how to resolve those two issues with the additional pavement and retaining wall. I also wanted to note that Delia had noted that there are supposed to be bounds for the conservation restriction. They're not shown on this as-built plan for some reason, but hold on one second. We do have a plan indicating that they have been installed. So our office actually installed the bounds, so they are there. That we just need to add these to the as-built plan. And then finally,
So I'm confused. So you're saying you need to add them to the plan, but were they actually
They were installed, but
They were
they were,
installed.
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's what this plan is showing, is we have an
Got it.
existing condition of concrete bounds. So we'll just
Okay.
add those to the as-built. And then one final deviation here is I can't remember the exact condition number, but requires a planting mitigation plan for the open areas in the conservation restriction. One had not been submitted, although the applicant did indicate that they did plant a shrub in this area. Just a single shrub, although the condition did state that shrubs should be planted 5 foot on center from each other. It didn't leave a specific number, but that is where we're at. Be happy to hear any input from the commission.
Okay, so thank you for talking us through those. So I'm sorry, the retaining wall cannot stay where it is.
What?
The wall that you
Mhm.
have, it
The wall.
the
Wall.
Wall.
Not stay.
It cannot stay. It was very clear in all the discussions, we went back to the previous meetings, that because it was so close to the wetlands, the stone wall had to be constructed actually on the driveway footprint.
So how long close to, yeah? What says this distance I have to remove?
It has to be moved onto the footprint of the driveway.
1 foot.
No.
No, all of it.
2 feet.
All of it.
2
Up to the
So big.
Up
All
to
of
the
it.
drive, whole wall.
You can
whole
see
wall.
the
Yes.
originally approved outline is here in a lighter color. You can see that it would just, yeah, need to be pulled off about 1 or 2 feet back onto the existing edge of pavement.
Onto the existing, yes. And we never make any allowances that we're very strict. We hold everybody to that, which is why, you know, we have all these meetings to actually discuss carefully what can be
Yes,
done
I
and
know,
what can't be
yeah.
done.
Yes, I
Mhm.
understand that. I just want to explain what happens because when they build this wall, there's a contractor did it, not by me.
Right.
So I don't know that they didn't finish all of them, they disappeared.
Mhm.
And I paid all of, but they didn't finish. So I hired another contractor, but just to finish the top, but they already built the base, all of them around there. I cannot find them. I don't want to be very angry for that. I already lost money. So that's why they built it. I don't know how long, how wide, because English is my second language. So I read the whole thing is
Sure.
very difficult. So they built it, I think is good. But just I know just why they start and end point move a little bit because that's the situation. They're very slope, so there's a design for the beginning and the end is not exactly match the position. So I move a little bit, but shorten already shorter than the design totally.
Yeah.
So yes, it's wide. So how wide belong that I really don't know, but I think for right now it's already here. If I 2 feet is here. If I hire a contractor to rebuild a new wall and I have to take off all the wall, that is one not good things for the environment, wetland, because they have to dig and something to do that.
Right, and just to, support that, that was the main argument here is that we understand that the wall should have been constructed along the edge of pavement as shown. Unfortunately, it was not done that way, and we're just hoping that there's anything we can offer to allow this wall to remain. Because, we feel this would create additional disturbances to the wetland where we feel that we could provide some sort of mitigation to offset those impacts alternatively.
Well, this is in the 25-foot.
This is all
Yeah.
inside the 25,
Yeah.
right? It's already inside the 25-foot.
Yeah, so it's absolutely,
Yeah.
it's not something that we can.
And we sort of don't even have jurisdiction to allow
No.
that because the 25-foot no build zone.
Well,
or
no, 25
disturb
is no
zone. Yeah,
disturb.
no disturb zone. Like it never should have been disturbed to begin with. I'm trying to understand what we had approved the wall
For safety.
inside the 25.
For safety reasons.
It's approved for safety reasons because, and it was limited to the edge of the existing driveway because that was the limit of the existing encroachment.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it
that
was
was an exception.
The driveway
It
was
was on the
already
drive,
there.
it's already on the driveway.
Yes, it's very
supposed to
slow, as a
Yeah.
2 feet height. If somebody,
I see.
I
that's-
already broke my hip.
Mm.
But
Yeah,
just,
I will.
but just to be clear, we would never usually allow a wall in the 50-foot. But because of the safety implications and all the
Yes.
discussions we had,
Yeah,
we allowed it on top of surface that was already there. But there is no way that we can allow it to stay where it is now.
sure. So I want to discussing another situation is return to later. How can I plant something around the wall?
No.
If you remove wall, it's something I think it's broken in nature again because this is concrete and the
Well,
stone
you'll have to do everything you can to avoid that, and I'm sure staff will advise you if needed, or the contractor, I mean. But I'm sorry, we cannot allow that to stay in the 25.
We can, the problem here is that even if. I mean, obviously the problem here was the first contractor, but the real issue here is that even if there is more environmental disturbance in fixing this problem. The amount of environmental disturbance that would occur throughout the entire community.
Mhm.
When people came in and said, oh, I'm sorry, my contractor didn't build it in the right place, et cetera, you would end up with more and more and more encroachment on these areas which are not legally permitted to be encroached on. So I do recognize that there's some environmental disturbance here. But in order to protect in the environment in these no disturb zones, every place in town, we have to be extremely strict. And as Gary said, we probably don't even have the right to grant you this
Relief that you're
exception,
seeking. Yeah.
because the state law and the law is so clear in terms of what has to happen. So it's a very unfortunate situation, and it may be some environmental issues in your particular situation, but we just don't have a way of.
Yes, so that is only you know, I built this wall, I think it's 2020 or 2021.
Mhm.
But until this year, I know the wall is 2 feet
Yeah.
inside.
Mhm.
But before that, I think the town come to visit a couple of times. They didn't measure it. I didn't measure it.
Well, you
So
weren't
that's-
asking for a certificate of compliance then, and that's what
Yeah.
that's what you're asking for now, and we cannot
So
give that.
only have to be last time to know that? Know anything?
Well,
But we approved a plan. When we saw the plan and approved the plan, it was
Different from what.
different from what we
was-
measured when we went to do the certificate of compliance, and we found that it does not agree with the plan. But the point we're making is we don't have the authority to grant relief when you're inside the 25. If it was between the 25 and 50, we have some flexibility. But
not in this.
even within the 25 to 50 foot,
So
we
you
would
think-
have to seek
Yeah.
mitigation. Inside the 25, we really can't.
Yes, I understand that, but this situation is already built it.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you remove it, this is a dig, this remove it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
That's
think
exactly
that's
what's gonna
gonna
happen.
happen.
That's
That
exactly
is
what's
right.
gonna happen. You're absolutely right, and we can't do anything about it.
We've explained it, so
Yeah.
we cannot give you a certificate of compliance until you move the wall back on top of the driveway.
So something else you want to know about my permit? Only the wall? If they correct the walls, everything will be done?
No, there was the other spot, right, on the
Yeah,
top.
there's
There,
two
the
other
other spot,
pieces.
the driveway, the 50
Yeah.
top.
So at least that's outside the 25,
Yeah.
correct? That's
So
between-
okay, that is very easy because that is brief. Cut it, can be back to soil, right?
Can we put back to soil?
Yes,
That can be.
it needs to be, let's see.
Because that is a
So I
pre.
think the other thing, I mean, from my
This is
perspective,
wrong,
so
yeah.
that's in the,
in the 50.
it's actually, there's a little bit in the 25. And now
Oh.
that I'm looking at it, there is a little bit in the 25. But
All right.
yeah, 'cause that's the
Oh, that's the
25.
25 there,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so that should come out, but I
Yeah.
think if it's helpful, I mean, in the 50, I think if you had asked to have a little turnaround in the 50 that's further from wetlands, then it
We
may
have, we
been
have more
more-
flexibility.
have
in
more
the 50.
flexibility.
But what is the point? I mean, but really, at this point, that little piece isn't gonna be helpful, so it'd be
Yeah.
better just take the whole piece out.
I think that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be taken out, that whole piece.
That size.
Yeah.
Because that is electrical pole here. So I put some stone to support, to protect the electrical pole there. That area. So that's it.
There's an electrical pole there?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, that
Where-
side,
where
that
Robert's-
is,
Yeah.
Is that in the
Is that
50
the
or
50 that?
no, move to.
Left or right? Here we are, yes. Good, good.
right over there?
That's in the
There's a-
25?
but
So
it-
which side's the 25, do you?
So,
That is here.
Oh, there's 25.
Robert, if you
Yes,
go
the
up,
electrical meter is here and there's a pole is here, so this area that.
but
I
that doesn't
think it's
show on
here.
the as-built, Robert, there's, Yang is saying that there's a meter.
Yeah,
not shown-
and then also.
Yeah, that's not
Oh,
shown on the as-built, so if you take your cursor, where is your
Mhm.
cursor? Keep going sort of,
Up.
northwest. Yep, keep going, get to the top of that and stay
There.
right there, go down a
About
little bit,
there.
on the edge of the pavement there,
It's a meter.
about
box.
there, there's a meter.
Okay.
I think that's.
Yeah.
But this is not by me.
About.
Yeah.
Not by me, that's
But-
that's
when
it's
did-
electrical. The plant did it, yeah.
Oh, so
They're always
the
here.
light plant. put that,
Elected,
okay.
yeah, not by
Yeah,
me,
okay.
but by, yes, already
Okay.
for a long time is are there.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm just curious why that doesn't show up on the as-built.
Right.
Yeah, I'll have to check with our survey and
Okay.
just see, maybe it could have been something that was, left on
Yeah.
non-visible.
Right. So it's, if that's the location, but you say it's on the edge of pavement,
Mhm.
Right, so it would be outside of 25.
Okay.
You know, I don't know if this is at all helpful. I think, you know, when the commission looks at filings after the fact, you know, where it doesn't match the approved plan, they generally will ask, would we have approved this if it had come? You know, and so that's another, I think, issue with this, the wall in particular, and I understand it's a hardship to remove the wall.
Yes, that's a very hard.
Yeah, but I wonder if there's you know, one option would be to put dense shrub plantings, if you're worried about sort of falling off the edge of the driveway there, to put in like a dense shrub so that you didn't have to replace the wall, you could remove it and replace it with something else.
I have to replace wall because that's dangerous for people,
Okay.
but especially in winter. I fall
Okay.
down here and broke my hip.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is a 10 feet height.
Mhm.
If somebody fall down,
Yeah.
that's very dangerous.
Sure.
So that is why I ask to build a wall. If I have
Right.
another situation, it can be.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a stone, also stone. There's a wall built on stone, not built on soil.
Right.
That is a big stone, that area.
That has to come out then.
Yeah. So that's is natural stone. So my house was built on stones,
Yeah.
rocks,
Okay.
stones. So that's why.
Yeah.
So something else you want to know? My replant, there's plants already.
The replanting that was done in this area, it looks terrific. It looks
Okay.
very, very good.
Mhm.
It's robust, it's, you know, you did a really nice job with that.
Yes, I did all of them here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
so it's really good, looks really good.
Yeah.
We do need to see more planting in in the area of the conservation restriction.
So how about the two place, a wall, you asked me to move back, and how about that area, take out all of them or keep some? Because keep some, it's good for the electrical.
I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah, I don't see
Yeah,
how.
I think you're still gonna have to- I think-
Everything inside the 25 certainly would
Yeah.
have to come out, so.
But without knowing on the plan
So if
exactly
you
where the
take out
electrical
the
is.
paper, what says can plant some flower or something on that
Oh.
area or something? No?
Just a wetland seed mix is fine. I mean, you want to plant flowers? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because remove
Mhm.
that, do you have
Yeah.
some extra other? Yeah,
Are
Well,
you
this is where
talking about where
Robert-
the wall is?
No,
Sorry,
no,
the other-
no, talking about the area.
Oh, the pavement.
If
Yeah,
if you take this out, what do
so
you,
what says be?
what do you replace it with?
future?
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's up to
Wetland
you, I
sequence,
think,
yeah.
I mean, it's,
so you don't have to any, yeah.
what was there before?
Before, it's not stone, it's weeds.
Weeds.
So you
Weeds,
ask
okay.
me to treatment, that's Japanese.
Oh, that was the Japanese knotweed was there, so there was.
not weed, okay.
Well, was
and
there,
blackberry.
was there a proposal to replant that area?
So if you say it depends me, that I can flower.
So we would need to see what you're planning. That would have
Yeah.
to, you'd have to submit something to us,
Mhm.
okay?
Was it Robert who's representing her from
Yeah.
Stansky?
Yeah.
The approved plan, did it show plantings in that area?
Planting here?
No, it did not. This is the approved plan here. It did show
Yeah, already,
there's some removal.
have
in the
planted
area.
many things here.
Okay. There was, I think it was parterre. Did you have parterre? I think they submitted an invasives removal and replanting plan, Robert, that I can,
Anyway, you
anyway.
can propose
Yeah, you can.
whatever
propose-
you like.
Right.
Yeah.
So we
Okay.
would need
and
to
we'll look at
see,
it, But
you know, a plan showing what you're going to do.
Yeah, if for the rock stone, for the leaking, for the water it's fine.
It depends.
Crush the stone.
riprap kind of.
Yeah, because that's
House, is that?
water
steep?
is go
Yeah.
from to that side.
No.
It's a li- You know, it's a
Crush
little
the
down,
stone.
little downgrade.
Yeah, it's slope.
I think Robert can advise you on
Yeah.
what to propose.
Yeah.
Did,
Sorry,
Did-
we're
you
talking
did,
about
I'm
the
sorry,
possibility of crushed stone.
Sarah,
Yeah,
Sarah?
Nick's making a comment,
Did-
so Nick,
did-
go ahead.
did we discuss the filling of floodplain and compensatory storage?
It's the other project.
That's the next one.
not this one.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought that was in this
That's the
one.
second Strawberry Hill.
Sorry.
That's really
Yeah.
Adams.
It's just, it's marked wrong on the
Ah,
thumbnail.
I'm mixed up, same street.
We're on the first one. Okay. Yeah, so the replanting of that, some of it's 25, so as far as the crushed stone, I mean, it depends if it's 25 or 50 and where the electrics are and
Yeah,
I guess
we need to,
Robert
we need
to
to,
look at it.
We need to hear from Robert, a new
Yeah,
plan.
we'll get a new plan.
Robert, right?
Yeah, so if we're intending to remove this and replace it
Yeah.
with crushed stone, we show that on the plan. That's okay.
Or soil, I'm not sure it's
I-
crushed stone.
yeah, I don't know that, I mean. It's in the 50, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's a
Well,
structure.
half
I
of
mean,
it
you
is
could-
inside
yeah.
the 25.
Well, the 25 would
But
have
that's
to
what
be
I'm,
restored.
yeah. so
Yeah.
we'd have to check.
And then if you have
Right.
stone right up to the edge of the 25, it's just gonna kind of migrate, I don't know.
Yeah,
You could, I mean, you allow patios in the 50, so,
So why don't we say,
Yeah.
come back with a plan for us for this
Yeah,
area?
Yeah.
and we'll discuss it.
Right.
Yeah,
yeah, but I
Right.
think stone, any stone in the 25 wouldn't be.
No.
No.
Favored.
No.
And then, as far as the wall being removed, do we need to see any plans about how that's gonna be done? Or,
Silt sock.
yeah,
Yeah,
we need to
exactly.
see just, obviously in the plan that you're showing that there's, adequate.
Check
erosion
that, yeah.
force, yeah.
yeah. Okay, so,
And Quick
which-
question,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, just wondering, so when we come back with a plan submittal, are we, is this gonna be a continued agenda item, or do we need to do any sort of filing?
Well,
or-
this
Is this a new submission?
It's not a continuance because
No.
there's no open hearing. I think you just come back with a
Come back.
plan.
We just
Okay.
treat it as a COC again.
Okay.
It's not a new submission, it's just
Right.
still trying to get the compliance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Compliance certificate.
yeah. So it's a plan for compliance.
Yeah, and if the commission wants to delegate it to staff, to sort of work out that plan,
Mhm.
and then we can bring it to you when it's ready to
Please.
go.
that'd be great, yeah.
Okay,
good.
okay,
Yeah, and we'd be happy with that. I think you hear our direction that, inside the 25.
Yeah.
Mhm.
and then
We-
when I think it's ready to go, I can just,
Yep, we can
you-
bring it to
you can,
stuff.
yeah,
Perfect.
okay.
Okay,
All right,
Okay.
good.
Thank
we'll
you
look
very
forward to a new plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Next,
next we
Yeah.
have, 160 Adams Road,
60 Adams Road.
DP file 1371615. And are you the owners? Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
good evening.
I'm Beth.
Hi, Beth.
And Fred Bellisman.
And do you have somebody representing you as
No,
well? No? Okay.
It's just, I don't know. So, yeah. So I have, let me just get this shared. So this was the approved plan.
so I can explain a little bit about this. Just to tell you folks, again, I mean, I hope you read the letter that I wrote, but
Yep.
the whole site's very difficult. This farm was built about 50 years ago. So, and I'm the, second owner. So the whole site is pretty low land. And I think what happened was, before we put in this addition, there was kind of a road to access the shed here, the shed row here, and it was quite packed down. So the elevation here was almost, this was kind of a dip. There was almost like a dip. And I think when the surveyor surveyed this, because we're like kind of shocked, we were all kind of shocked at you know, the fact that the corner came up, but we matched the existing foundations of the existing
Mhm.
building. So we had to match the existing foundation. It was pretty straightforward. There were sheds here. We took out the sheds. There was cement pad under the sheds. We removed all that. The fencing actually went further into this area than it does now. So we've backed the fencing up out of here. So there's more just natural lower land, which we felt water wise, it's a mess. It's hard to manage when it floods. You know, hey, when the farm floods, we have a real challenge
Yeah.
to even be able to, we can't even turn the horses out in the fields,
Mhm.
you know, until it drains. And we're having an issue, with the broken pipes from the land trust. They're trying to work on that. I'm meeting with Joan tomorrow because they're trying to figure that out because the pipe is flooding our land more. In terms of mitigation, this area behind is our riding arena here, and off of Adams Road, the street itself is shedding a ton of water, of rain and so forth, to a wetland area right behind the riding arena, so I can't lower this. It already floods. I mean, the whole property floods. So, Delia, did you come out and see it? Somebody said
Mhm.
somebody came out. So you
Yeah.
saw what we did.
Mhm.
I mean, what we put in, you know, is settling. But hey, we just had to make it a reasonable step for the horses to get in and out of this. You know, I think we've improved what was there. And did as little with raising the grade as we could, because we just came down to a reasonable step down out of the barn. Matter of fact, we had to, the level of the water problem that we have is we had to put a little bit of true grid right outside the stalls, because they would have stepped right into a
Mhm.
ditch. I mean, it just would have been really dangerous for us at that point. So there was so much, you know, fortunately, this particular piece is a tiny bit higher than all the other pasture land that we're using. So, I mean, we've done the best we can. I just don't know what else I can do about it. And so, you know, the use is the same, the function is the same. The elevation really was really, the elevation outside of this area is the same as it was, if not lower, because we just only wanted to fence in, we just limited our fence.
Mhm. So, would you like to sit down again?
Sure.
Okay. So I think the key issue here is that we don't actually have a quantification of how much landfill that you've put in without discussion beforehand. So as far as, you know, determining whether that was the best thing to do or not, or such like, we really need to understand how much was put in there. So
Well, minimum amount was put in to make it functional.
And-
safe. So that's,
and-
you know, it was, you know, I don't know, there wasn't a lot else to be done.
Well, I will say the engineer has taken a look at it, and there's, you know, and John Hamill is a surveyor who's somewhat retired at this point, but the engineer is really the key that you're looking for the calculation you're looking for. He just said that he didn't find that it was useful for, you know, that he wouldn't recommend that we spend the money to do that calculation, because he said his attitude was that it was there was no real impact past what was there prior, but we don't have anywhere we can mitigate and drop land. We just don't have you know, we did the minimal that we could, and we really don't have anywhere to make up for it. If you did a calculation and you decided you wanted us to mitigate it in some way, we don't have any other higher land.
I have a question, why wouldn't you have come back to talk about this with the commission or with Delia before you filled the land in? I mean, right? I mean, why not come and speak?
Well, I mean, they filled it when they put in the foundation.
But
you know,
Right, but you had a plan that was approved that
Yeah.
did not show additional fill.
You should.
And when you realize,
Yeah.
oh,
We have to do this. and things could have been looked at, but now you're facing, again, a tough situation.
Yeah.
I don't understand, why not just come back? I'm just curious.
I just didn't, I mean, I think we were just basing it on the functional way to deal with the new foundation, and they backfilled the foundation, and that's what happened. So it wasn't, we didn't even have the horses in there for another year. So it was kind of, so we didn't really know that there was that much of a difference until after the fact, when we surveyed it after the as-built was done last May.
But John Hamm spoke to you and talked to you about it, and I'm not trying to say, but I mean, it just puts us all in an awkward spot.
Hey, it's a very tough spot for me as well, I understand, I just didn't feel like there's really no choice, I couldn't leave a 2-foot drop out of a horse stall. I just, it was like.
Yeah, but I think that Bill's making the point, you should have come back to.
Yeah.
The NRC
Should
before
come
doing
back,
Fair
anything.
enough.
Yeah.
But you know how construction
Yeah.
projects just kind of roll and it gets, people are,
As you
there's
said.
all kinds of different things happening. And I
Understand.
do understand, I'm very sensitive to your point there.
I mean, even coming off the stalls, and look at the stalls, not that I'm saying this is better, you could have had ramps coming down into, not that that's the best, you could have had ramps. That would have eased the problem, or there could have been something in between the ramps and the amount of fill you.
There were no way to do a safe.
Right now, you got.
There was
a
actually.
Surface and ramps
Yeah.
would not be permanent.
There was actually no way to
Without-
put ramp,
ramps were-
we couldn't have ramped it
Couldn't
because
have
of the
ramped it.
doors, right? Unless we lifted the doors up, because we couldn't ramp just the opening, because they could step off the ramp.
Mhm.
So that's not a safe, the ramps are used in barns in
Yeah.
some situations,
Yeah.
absolutely. But we have 11 stall openings
Mhm.
along the shed row. And, we couldn't ramp, we would have had to ramp the
You would have
entire
ramped,
length.
you could have
of
ramped
the
the
shed,
entire,
yes.
the entire piece along
Yes.
there with a ramp,
Yeah,
with all the doors open without any
Right.
fall off on either side.
right.
That would have been an example.
Well, the challenge we have is, if you're saying there really isn't another area of adequate storage, then we're gonna have to ask you to remove it. And explore ramps or, such like.
So you'd prefer ramps, is what you're saying?
Or to find additional, I mean, the suggestion, I understand you did the minimal amount, but the minimal amount filled in floodplain, so we kind of have to find out how to get that floodplain back. And then if you don't want to remove what filled in the floodplain, then we can find a different area to,
And we don't know
Provide
exactly
flood
what we're
storage,
talking
but I don't
about,
know.
because.
yeah, we don't know.
I mean, if you did an assessment to tell us exactly what was there, then maybe we can have a more meaningful conversation, but we have to do something here.
I mean, yeah,
So we either have to have a proper assessment of what's there, and then we can discuss what's next. But as you said, if there's nowhere else to put it, then
yeah, if you can demonstrate that
Yeah.
it really was a de minimis change, then maybe we could talk about, I don't know, some other form of mitigation or something.
Is there another form of mitigation? And
I-
what forms of
I think
mitigation
you
are?
need to
what forms of
understand, I
mitigation
think you
are
need to
there?
understand what the volume is that
Yeah.
is.
But
is
I
it
mean,
5
is it,
square
can we
feet? Is
dig a
it
pond,
500
a
square
retaining
feet?
pond situation?
No, I
I
mean,
mean, we're next to the river.
so for mitigation for fill and floodplain is that you have to find another area that you provide
Compensatory flood storage.
flood store, so you could find somewhere and, it has to be at the
At
same
the right height.
elevation that you filled.
Which we don't have. We
Well,
just don't have it.
You,
You do
you
in the original.
you may have on site somewhere. I mean, it's a big property. So I think you need to talk to the engineer and see, like, first of all, you need to know what the volume of fill is. And then see if there are other areas at those elevations.
This is probably our highest elevation.
well, then we need a report to say that. I mean, well, if there really isn't, then I guess it would have to come out.
I mean, if you come and walk the property and see it, I think it'll make more sense.
No,
If that makes sense, but literally, the whole property is pretty much in low lying land. I just
Okay.
don't know where else.
So then it would have to be removed, and you would have to look at alternative ways of that step down.
I'll go back and consult with the engineer again.
Yeah, I would encourage the engineer, because I think the engineer could find some areas where perhaps some compensatory flood
I
storage.
would think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I really am telling you, I don't think he can.
Well,
I mean, have you been
What
on
if-
the site?
have you asked
look
him
at-
to look for compensatory?
Yeah,
flood
yeah,
storage?
we have had this discussion,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah, believe
I
me,
would
we
have paid to
tried to
do
make
that.
it.
Believe me, yeah, it's not like
I'm
I'm not
happy to,
aware.
I'm happy
that
to
it's-
join in that conversation with your engineer. if
Yeah.
That's helpful.
Yeah, I mean, that, he's been on the whole site and John Hamill's surveyed the whole site. So
Well,
they
I-
know what they're looking at and.
Do you have a whole site survey? Because we don't have that. We have a limited survey of just around the barn
I
area.
believe we do.
Okay, so that would be helpful
Okay.
because
Yeah.
Yeah,
you really
Yeah.
need that.
yeah, there's 3 buildings there and it's all that same elevation. They're all the same elevation, pretty much.
How long have you been there? I'm just curious.
I bought it in 22.
Yeah, I've been on the property years ago, I'm the previous owner. I was trying to remember if I have been there. So I have been there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep, couple times. Yeah, I know where you are.
So they separated the house and sold it separately.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, in 2019, so I don't live there.
Oh, okay.
But we have 3 buildings on site and then they sold the farm as a separate property. And at that time, they blocked off their entrance from Park Lane.
Huh,
And then they isolated the farm to Adams Road.
huh.
So it's slightly different in that there's a big fence behind the barn now that just separates the house and that's a different owner.
I got it.
Yeah.
My Ford.
So I don't have the land.
Horse. On this property, yeah.
Fond memories.
So there's, hey, I was there for 35, so I was there when she built it. I rode with her when she built it. So yeah, we know her in the horse world for a long time. But,
We might also wanna ask the town to do something about the road, which is shedding the water into our land, you know?
well, I don't know how we handle that because we have a lot of runoff that's affecting our property on this side. So we're kind of have water on both sides.
Yeah.
It's not a great property and it was completely undevelopable. So it's, I
It's
mean,
always gonna be what it is.
we've done the
Yeah.
we've done the minimum that we can and it is what it is.
Okay, so you're gonna look at what plans you have, talk to your engineer.
I mean, it sounds like you want more information, but I don't think we're gonna be at a different point than we are right now.
In that case, we would have to have what you added and removed.
Right, and
Yeah.
I can't do that for the safety of the livestock and the function of the property, so
So
I'm
it's-
not,
we'll just-
we're at an impasse on it.
We don't know that yet. Why don't you see what happens? Why don't you
Alright.
talk to the engineer and find out?
Yeah, well, we've had.
Well, and
conversations.
believe me, I've, said to him, hey, we have to do this, and he said, look,
Yeah.
this is gonna cost you another $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, whatever, they've been, it was just a really expensive thing anyway, and he said, I don't see the reason for it, cause I don't have anywhere. I
Well,
can-"
we can't give you a certificate of compliance unless we come to some sort of resolution here.
So I'll see what more he can do.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to talk to the town, the DPW about doing something about the runoff to the road.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that's the
'Cause it's
bigger part of the
contributing,
problem,
yeah.
actually.
I mean, we have a lot of flood issues, but not in this particular area. This is probably the only building, the buildings on the site somehow really have not flooded. The river has not, the overall flood has not reached these buildings and Kristen,
That
the
is.
Casmeyers told me actually.
Yeah, that's
that
what, it's.
that it never
it's one
happened.
place
It's
that's water
kind of a
doesn't
miracle.
come anyway.
So that's the only building that has any slightly higher elevation to it. And fortunately, it's back on the other side of the driveway. We have, some gullies and ditches that are funneling water back toward the river.
Mhm.
But, there's no, the problem we have there is that there's no elevation that will run out. We can't run any water. We'd have to pump it from there to the river. There's just no way to solve that the water problems on the property. So we just live with it.
So I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to move us on because we have a lot of other agenda items to get through still. But thank
So
you
we
very
tried-
much for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we have a partial COC for Arsenic Hill Road, DP file 1371696.
That was a septic reconstruction and it's partial just because they haven't yet planted the oak trees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do we need to vote on that or anything? Yeah. Can I have a motion, please?
Um. So do we move for a partial?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I move that we issue a partial COC for DEP 5137-1696 at 201 Nurse Snack Hill.
I second it.
Thank you. And the vote, Bill,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
thank you, and I'm an aye as well. Okay,
I know
so
we have a few permits
an
to
issue?
close, but we do have Brian here who's
Oh, yes,
been
oh, yeah.
patiently waiting.
Absolutely.
Brian, please join us for, so
Aye.
we're moving to other business. Is there anyone else online, or is it just us now?
We've got
Nick.
Nick, Linda Escobedo and Crossy Deal.
Okay,
Hey, Brian.
okay,
Aye.
welcome back.
Good to see you. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm back. And,
Another year has passed.
another year has passed, a year plus a little bit. We're a little later than usual. And here to ask for another annual round of funding support by the NRC for the Great Meadows Blandings Turtle Conservation Project.
Mhm.
The NRC has been helping support since I still am not sure about the exact start date, but it was somewhere around 2005, so it's
Yeah.
20 years-ish. And I know Delia, you had shared our
Yes.
report
Yeah,
recently
very
with
nice.
you all.
Very good.
Yeah, I'm happy to go over that really quickly. I know you guys are behind your agenda.
Maybe some highlights?
Yeah, so some highlights overall are that, you know, I had talked about this with you some last year, but we had finally done a formal statistical analysis of the population size of Blandings turtles based on a few different methods that was published in a journal last year. And just based on turtles that are older juveniles, usually take about 5 years to reach that age, through adulthood. We used 2 different methods, give slightly different answers, but those methods were showed between about 210 and 320 or so individuals of that size. To both of those, you need to add about another 150 smaller individuals. So essentially, there's somewhere between mid 300s to mid 400s of Blandings turtles in the population. And that's up, again, just referring to the slightly larger individuals, somewhere between 4 and 6 fold from where it was in 2003, 2004. More than 80% of all the turtles in the population are Head Start alumni right now. And,
What percentage?
more than 80%.
80%, yeah.
And just in the last 2 years, so we had the first females that we released were released in 2010. They were hatched in 2009. So they're about 16 years old, first cohort. And Blandings turtles, non-head started Blandings turtles in this population, usually the females usually don't start reproducing until about 18, 19 years of age. So because the head started guys are a little bit bigger, we expected them, you know, that we might start seeing some reproduction right about now. And we've now had last year and this year, we've had 2 males that were head started that we've observed mating. And then last year, there was a female that was head started that we saw walking back to Great Meadows from the wastewater treatment plant with dirt on her shell, had pretty clearly nested. We missed it. And this year again, in the Peter Spring Road neighborhood, we found another female who had pretty clearly nested, though we weren't tracking her. So we know that some of the first, you know, the oldest alumni, if we will, are just starting to nest themselves.
So they're nesting in the asparagus field?
They nest mostly in people's yards, all along.
Because you have to cross over the waste treatment plant or something to get to the asparagus. But I noticed, I thought you had flags out there in the asparagus field. Did you?
Yeah, we have, and every year we track about typically about 3 females to nest in the asparagus field, but 3/4 or more of the nests are in private residences that go all the way down from just into Bedford.
Yep.
all the way up, into my neighborhood, into the Prescott, Peter Spring neighborhood.
And have you done awareness raising outreach with families in that area?
Yeah.
What to
Oh.
look for and
Yep.
to keep pets away and that kind of thing?
Yep, we have, and we send postcards to people in all those nesting areas each year.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've been doing this for a long time,
Yeah.
so, I mean, there's turnover, but people know us
Yeah.
pretty well.
And I haven't been down there, I don't think, not for a long time anyway. Are there signs on the road about turtles crossing?
There are,
I know
yeah.
that you wrote in your report that you had a.
Yep, there are signs on Monson Road and there are signs on Minuteman Road, at least. I can't remember, there might be a sign on Mallard or Clackamas, I'm not sure. Yeah, those were put up quite a while ago,
Okay, great.
although they're not terribly effective.
No.
And just a little anecdote,
Little
years ago, I
anecdote.
was I was at a meeting with a gentleman that lives on Monson Road and who was advocating for the use of more turtle signs and, you know, and as a potentially effective tool for mitigating traffic impacts. And I was like, well, how many times do you notice the sign on Monson Road? And he goes, there's no sign on Monson Road.
Okay, yeah, do what you can.
Right, I noticed that National Park, up on, up near the North Bridge, you put little cages around does that work at all for you, for nesting turtles, have you tried that?
Yeah, so what we do when we find Blanding's turtle nests is we do a two-part thing. First, we put just a 2 foot by 2 foot hardware cloth screen that's just pinned down with landscape staples. And that, because most of the nests are in people's yards, makes it you can mow over those. They're not in your face.
Yeah.
And then when the turtles, because at Great Meadows, unlike some other sites, we let the babies hatch out naturally.
Yeah.
So when we know time-wise that it's getting close to hatching season, then we replace those with cages.
Oh, okay.
And we check those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another quick question.
Sure.
Do they ever hybridize with Eastern paint turtles?
They don't, they're not very closely related. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
So.
One question,
Yeah,
sorry, I know we have a lot to get through on the agenda, but when we discussed it last year, I may be wrong, but I thought we were talking about, you know, at what point do you say this is a success? And, you know, and you had said, we're doing a statistical analysis now. So now that you've done your statistical analysis and you have identified a few of the alumni that are, you know, do you have a better sense of like when you call it a win and move on to a different habitat, or? I mean,
It's a really good question. I should preface my this by saying that I'm mostly between last year and this year, I mostly retired from my job at the zoo. So I'm still an employee, but I'm working very part-time. So I'm no longer the person who's making those decisions
I see.
flat out. What, you know, I've talked about with the state and have recommended all along is that, you know, the trigger should essentially be when we start getting reasonable numbers of the formerly head-started females nesting, and we can actually see nesting numbers increasing, which will likely occur over the next, you know, maybe 2 to 5 years, something like that. Then that's a good time to tail back the head starting efforts, but probably continue a more modest effort that just finds nests and protects the nests.
Yeah.
And, you know, helps the young hatch out. One of the issues though is, and this is really for State Division of Fisheries and Wildlife, largely, as well as U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to determine, is now that the Great Meadows Blanding's turtle population is, you know, its decline has been reversed, it's increasing. It's now easily the second largest population in Massachusetts. So in the future, does the state and do the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service people want to use the Great Meadows population as a source population for doing this kind of work elsewhere?
Yeah.
So that remains a possibility. But
that's
as far as putting more head-started turtles into Great Meadows, I think we should be tailing that effort back fairly soon.
Great.
So how much are you looking for this year there?
So, I was actually going to ask, I don't know, Delia, do you know from your records offhand how much we had asked you for last year?
I believe it was 4,000, Karen, does that sound, I would have to double check that.
I was
That's
guessing that was right.
Mhm.
but-
Yeah.
But I don't have my own.
Are you asking for the same as last year?
Same as last year would be wonderful.
Yeah. And the budget exists to do that? I mean.
There's
plan on-
about 114,000.
Oh, yeah.
I can pull up the exact number for you.
Yeah.
So I think my guess was 4,000 from last year, but whatever we asked for.
But we can
last year,
vote on the same as last year. I
Yeah,
assume.
that would be great.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Which is either 4,000 or 3,500, but it wouldn't be any more, I don't think.
It would be best to have an actual number.
Okay,
in the
are you
vote.
looking for it now? Yeah.
I can. I was gonna tell you what is in the wetlands account.
And in the meanwhile, while Delia's looking that up, just one other note about something that we're doing that we just started this year. See how it goes, but one thing that's really important for us to know, because we do this kind of work with Blanding's turtles at other sites and with other rare species of turtles. And so we're often in the position of wanting to release turtles into wetlands that they don't currently occupy. And we might think we know a fair bit about the turtles and what they like, but the turtles know a lot more than we do. And one of the things that we're not very sure about is exactly what they're eating as young individuals and as older individuals. It's very hard to find out. So now with genetic testing tools available, we've been working with some folks from UMass. So we did put a big effort last year into taking fecal samples from 48 different Great Meadows turtles, and then essentially you get all the DNA, extract all the DNA you can, and break the DNA up into fragments and then sequence those fragments and run them through a supercomputer and try and match them against known DNA sequences of any other organism. So we're still stuck waiting on the UMass folks to help us with that, but hopefully we'll get some answers to that, which will be
I
really
wouldn't
useful.
have thought everything had been sequenced yet, though. So it'd be interesting to see.
Not
what
everything
they
for
come
sure,
with.
but
Yeah.
there's a lot. So even if, for example, one of the things that Blanding's turtles certainly do eat all throughout their life cycle are like dragonfly larvae.
Okay.
And there have certainly been dragonfly genetic sequences that have been done for a bunch of species, not for
Okay.
all the world's 20,000 or something dragonfly species, but they'll be similar enough, so you can probably say it was a dragonfly in this family or something.
Yeah, fantastic. Do you write up this work in publications?
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
So last year, the commission approved $4,000 for purchase of radio transmitters, nest protection and tracking efforts. And head starting.
So we don't have to say exactly what, we can just make a motion to approve of the $4,000 for the continuing protection of Blanding's turtles is that'd be okay? So I make a motion that we continue to support the Blanding's turtle efforts by approving $4,000 from our appropriate funds.
From the wetlands account.
The wetlands account.
Second.
Thank you. And vote, Bill,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Nick,
Hi.
and I'm an aye as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Brian.
much.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Have a good evening.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, so we're jumping around the agenda, but we're gonna go right to the end because the owners of 85 The Valley Road, I understand you're listening in. So in respect for their time, we can move to the violation letter right at the
Yeah.
administrative review
Okay.
right at the end. That is if they are, oh yes, I see Cressy there.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, good evening.
For having us again. I'm gonna share my screen quickly.
Just a minute.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
You should be all set.
Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
It looks like it's
There.
there.
There,
Yes, it's
yep.
there. Yeah.
Can you zoom a little bit?
Yeah. So, last week, after our meeting a couple weeks ago, we ended up hiring Jay Webster with Marquee Services, which probably some of you are familiar with Jay. He is a certified arborist. He was at the property last week and he closely identified 5 dead half trees. And he produced a report for us. I can share with the board later, but we can go through his slides. The red arrows, this photo was taken at the end of the driveway at our house and
Percy, sorry to interrupt. The typical way that we do this is that materials are submitted to commission in advance so that they could read them and absorb them and think about them, rather than just responding, on the fly. So I'd like to propose that if you could please submit them, then we could pick this up again at the next meeting, which is July 16th. Would that be okay?
so I think after we met with you, this was more for the commission and the board to look at our findings or Jay Webster's findings. And at this point, if you need us to resubmit this for further review and come back.
So you haven't submitted it. That was, we were expecting that you would submit this in advance of the meeting.
And yeah, I mean, all materials are available to the public in advance of the meeting as well, in case anyone wants to join. So I think we need to have it submitted, and then we can put it on the website, and we can all take a careful look before we next meet. I'm sorry if that wasn't clear.
No. Okay.
Well, do you wanna just, we decided we're not gonna do any further
Yeah,
work besides just removing the one tree that has already been still standing up.
Yeah, a lot of this has just been blown out of proportion at this point. We kind of just wanted to move on. There was a Norway maple, as you can see, number 6, that we had discussed before, that's already half cut down. At this point, Chris and I discussed just removing that and doing nothing else, even though some of the dead trees are in proximity of hitting the house, but we're just honestly just wanting to move on. And I couldn't remember more if you had said that the Norway maple, it's okay to take that down or not.
Okay, well, if you could please submit this then, and then we can take a proper look. But I'm hearing from you your preference is just not to do anything else, and we'll obviously consider that and then see where we are.
Yeah, given our personal decision, I maybe, I don't know, if Delhi will be the one to respond back to us in an email, because I don't know if we still need to sit in front of the board for another meeting, given our decision.
Yeah, I mean, without looking at the report, it's hard to comment. But this will still have to come up on the agenda at the next meeting, though, won't it? Yeah.
Or whether they have to come or not, maybe you may be able to resolve.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Can we meet with Dylan instead of sitting in
So,
front?
start with that. Start with meeting with Delia.
No, start with submitting.
Start submitting
And I will follow up.
and then she'll follow up with you.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay?
But our next meeting is July 16th, so we'll have to have it on the agenda.
Maybe.
Oh, we may have to have it on the
Let's-
agenda.
we'll just see
Okay.
what-
Delia will decide whether we need to put it on the agenda.
I'm confirming with you.
We will discuss, yes.
All right, well,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Look forward to seeing the report. Thanks.
Thanks, bye.
Okay, so let's go back to where we were.
Which I think was
Close an issue.
close an issue,
decisions.
252 Lexington.
Oh, yeah, these are ones that we have to read, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So who has that such a nice?
Well, I have 252 Lexington Road. Is there anything to say about it or just? it's
Nope,
now.
everything,
ready.
for those three, we got everything that we needed. They
Okay.
were very minor changes to the plans.
Then I would move that we close and issue order of conditions for DEP file number 1371714 at 252 Lexington Road with findings A and B, standard conditions 1 through 20, and special conditions 21 through 59.
Do I have a second, please?
Oh, I second it.
Thank you, Bill. And the vote, Bill?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Thank you. Who
And then
voted?
I further move that we close and issue an order of conditions for DEP file 1371713 at 90 Nimrod Drive with finding A, standard conditions 1 through 20, and special conditions 21 through 56.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. And the vote? Bill?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well.
And then I move that we close and issue an order of conditions with respect to DEP file 1371710 at 104 Phillip Farm Road with findings A and B, conditions 1 through 20 and special conditions 21 through 58.
I second that.
Thank you. And the vote? Bill?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Thank you very much, everyone.
Right.
So we have an emergency certification ratification.
So there is an existing beaver deceiver at, is it 116?
116.
Thank you. And it's just needs to be repaired. It's failing in places, and so they've hired Sumco to go out and fix it. So they are able to have that flow properly.
Okay, we need to vote on that.
You do.
Okay, can I have a motion, please?
I move that we issue an emergency certification for 116 Estabrook Road to repair the beaver deceiver.
Second.
Thank you. And the vote, Bill?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. We're rolling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, so other business. So MCI redevelopment discussion. I thought we were gonna take this off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We forgot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, that's
Okay,
fine. Just to remind everybody. This is, there's a group being formed to, no, that's
This
not
is-
one, that's the
right.
land use, sorry.
So this was the one that,
Oh,
they
they
had
were
sent
asking
out-
for comments,
That's right,
yeah.
That's right.
But I think we agreed last time anyway that we would just wait and see what the next lot of plans were and then we could go from there.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, one thing I'm curious about, and I don't want to take a lot of time, because I know we don't have a lot of time in these meetings. But to look at the map once more of the property. I mean, for example, Gary, you did a great job looking at potential trails.
Mhm.
And to look at the areas that we're gonna be really alert to, that we wanna see be protected for wildlife corridors or other things. To just have a general sense of that
Do
at some
you want me to
point.
pull that up now?
Well, that'd be, I don't wanna take a lot of time, and maybe it's not the right time. So Sarah, it's up to you whether you wanna do this at a future meeting or not, because we're running. out
Well,
of
we
time.
keep pushing it off, but we are late, aren't we? So we've
Yeah.
been going 2 hours.
So we can do it some other time, but we should
Maybe-
spend some time just looking
If
at the
we have a
map.
light meeting load,
Yeah, put it on the
we
agenda
can
for
put it
that.
on the agenda.
Yeah, let's do it, just so we have
Yeah.
a general sense as to what we're really keen to wanting to protect and what we want to expand.
Okay, and then we'll look at the maps and
Right,
just
just
have
look at
a
the
general
maps, yeah.
discussion, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, thanks, Bill, for reminding us of that, because I know you brought that up before. I think we're getting too tired now to be very
Mm.
creative. Okay, and then the land use working group, as I was just saying, is one that is being formed and
has it been formed already?
it's in the process, right?
Right, so this was the one that Mark Galis had come
Right.
to a meeting
Yeah.
and said that it
Yeah.
is being formed, and he felt that the NRC should have representation, and the commission said, okay, well.
We'll have an
you would talk
observer,
about
that's
it.
what we talked about at some point, at least Nick, I think you recommended an
Yeah, the
observer.
last, we discussed it at the last meeting, and I think we were clear that we wanted to look at however we do it, whether we're part of that committee or just on our own,
Of a
look
liaison.
at it and
Yeah.
see what we think of each property.
Right.
Okay, so it might be, well, hopefully we'll be invited to have a liaison. Yeah, I don't believe it's on the select board for next
Well, we
Monday.
can,
I
we
know
can
they're
appoint the
discussing it.
liaison. We don't need to.
Oh, we can just appoint one. Okay, okay. So that was the one, well, that was the one
Yeah.
that, did you see my email where Ed?
Yes.
He
I
said
did.
yes, but then he said yes to 2229, so I'm not sure if he realizes that there's two committees, two there, so.
He probably does. I don't know. We'd have to follow up.
Yeah.
But if that's, you know, how
If,
the,
if it's a possibility.
Yeah.
and Ed has expressed interest in the.
That would be great, that would be
Yeah.
terrific.
Yeah, we thought that was a great idea.
So if you're out there listening.
Okay, so we'll confirm with him
That'd be
whether
great.
he will be
That'd be
okay,
fantastic.
because we're just about to vote him in for something else as well, but.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. The wetlands fee structure, so this is a recommendation, Dina and Karen kindly printed it out for us. So that we have it in front of us. And this will have to come to town meeting. Because that was a condition, when the bylaw was put in place, that if we ever started charging, it would have to be approved
But
at
if,
town
the-
meeting.
so there was an amendment made on the floor of town meeting when the bylaw was passed that any regulation
Okay,
had to go back to town meeting for approval. So
okay,
typically, you know, Public Works Commission or the Health Commission, Board of Health would, you know, if you implement fees, you do it through your own process with a public hearing.
yeah,
But this, you know, it was requested and it was included as a part of the approval.
so it would have to be a separate article at town meeting? Okay, okay, so we'd have to have a public forum at some point.
You'd have to have a public meeting prior to
Once we're
that.
comfortable with it ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So on this spreadsheet page, is Concord, are the ones down the bottom in the gray area, is that ours? Or are they, what is that? That's just, no, that's just,
So these are just the averages. So what
Averages,
we did
okay.
was we looked at.
yes, I see that.
Okay, yes, so
So-
it was the average, the mean, the mode, the median.
Yeah, I
And we
got
went
it.
with,
Now I see that.
yeah. we went
So,
with-
so one suggestion would be to put us on that spreadsheet. We don't, do we have nothing on
We
those
have
things?
nothing. We don't
Nothing.
have any fees.
Nothing,
No, we don't
okay,
have any.
great.
So if you look at the next, or that loose piece of, there's an Excel spreadsheet that Karen did the lion's share of pulling this together. It basically, what we did was
Oh, this one, yeah.
just a one-pager spreadsheet. We looked at all the permits that have been issued in 2022, 2023, and 2024. We calculated, you know, which category application those were because they have different fees associated with different categories. And we figured out what category it was, and then if we had wetlands bylaw fees, what we would have collected in those different years. And so really the takeaway from this is that our annual average was $8,525 for notices of intent. And the annual average for RDAs would be about $1,700.
Got it.
So it isn't, and this is in response, Nick had raised this at the last meeting, asking, you know, what does it produce? It's not a significant amount of money.
No.
Well,
10,000 plus or
But
minus a year.
compared to the time that it's gonna take you to manage, I know Karen said that it would just be one other thing, but still extra time for staff though, isn't it?
What's that?
To actually
Collection of
collect all
fees.
this.
Like to implement this program, it would cost some of your time and that probably would overwhelm the $10,000 in one raise.
So who's the highest in this list of Acton to Winchester? How would you read this?
It's been a while since we put this together, so let's see, who's the highest?
Yeah, who costs the most?
You know, it varies depending on which categories. And I can look into that. I wouldn't want to speak.
Probably also, it depends on
Yes.
what kind of property development's happening. If a town's doing a lot
That's
of big
right,
development,
depends
they
on
have
the
higher
categories.
fees.
Yeah.
But the recommendations you made are on the low side, right?
Yeah,
They're,
yeah, well,
no, they're the median.
Oh, they're the median,
I
okay.
think ours should be the highest. I'm serious, the amount of open space you have, the amount of work that you have to do, I don't see why wouldn't we not recommend that? Given the size, given how active our with the Department of Natural Resources and.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't remember reading it in here, but is there an annual increase or anything like that, or when it would next be
No,
considered? No.
we would just reevaluate. I mean, and this is sort of a question in my mind. I mean, it's sort of a pain to bring regulations to
Oh,
town
yeah, you
meeting.
don't
and I
get
don't know,
enough time, no.
can you ask to have that?
Yes, you can say
Okay.
that it's a fee that would be indexed annually following the CPI, consumer
Yeah,
price
yeah.
index or something.
Right.
I think
Rate of
for,
in- yeah.
excuse me, for any proposal like this, if you're gonna present it to the financial people, you should be telling them what it's gonna cost to implement. You should clearly
I
be
mean-
identifying the amount of time that it's gonna take to handle this and to handle the cash and, whatever.
Honestly,
Report it.
and Karen, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's substantial. It's one additional check that comes
Because you're
in.
doing other fees for each application anyway.
If it's
It's-
nothing
yeah.
that's interesting, if it's very big, it's interesting, but I mean, you need to identify what the cost is.
Well, again, my point, these are not large fees
No, no.
in any of these categories.
The only thing that I would say is that if you look at this spreadsheet, and I'm not disagreeing with you in your
Right.
reasoning.
Yeah.
So,
This is on top of other fees, right?
right, so I didn't label these because I actually wasn't planning to disturb.
Okay.
But, okay, so if you look at the 2022, the 1590 is the file number, the 95, sorry, and
Here,
the one
yeah.
pager Excel.
Yeah.
The $95 is the local fee that would be collected. Oh, sorry, that's the WPA fee, right? That's only half of their fee, because half of it comes to the town and the other half goes to the state. So double all of those in the left column.
So they're paying $190. I mean, 286
Already.
Barrett's Mill,
Already.
they're
The two
paying
eighty-six Barrett's Mill is paying
$190.
$195.
So we're
already.
talking about an additional 100 to the town.
Right, and this is, for somebody who's constructing a deck, an addition, that's all I'm saying, is that a lot of
Right.
these are small homeowner projects.
$300 to
For your wetlands permit, and then, I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah.
fees that are already,
putting up a
And
jungle
I
gym.
saw that and
Your
I
building
like that.
permit and-
I think a nominal fee is very reasonable, especially given the state of finances everywhere.
yeah.
And I don't. I think, not taking advantage and keeping it reasonably low is, I'm comfortable with that.
The only
say one thing.
way that the only time that staff would recommend that you increase that is when it's an after the fact filing and fees are doubled.
Yes, I saw that, yes,
One more point.
which is another deterrent, which is, we need, clearly.
This is not something, you don't want necessarily, I mean, in a certain sense, if the fee is a little larger, it may actually get people to think twice before they want to move into regulatory areas in their building. Correct? No?
Probably in the sites we're seeing, I don't think it would, because they're in them.
Yeah, okay. I
So-
just think that I think they're extremely low. I mean, I think even for homeowners, I mean, no one's gonna put in a deck or something for under $10,000.
So, one thing I want to raise is I've noticed recently, we have a lot more violations my perception is that we used to have. And I know we don't want, the violations can add up to a lot of money. $300 a day gets big very quickly. And we are rightfully reluctant to impose the fines, as long as people are making progress towards a plan. But I do wonder, just the hassle of writing the violation letter, is that something we can put a fee on? Or is there some way we can, I mean, those are the people who should be paying the money, not the guy who wants to add a bedroom on his, little bungalow.
Or you could quadruple the fee.
Because we already have
We've done-
fees
we've
on
done-
violation.
In there.
So,
Yeah,
well, we
we
have
don't hit them.
fees on enforcement.
It seems to me there should be, if we have to write a letter, you should get a fine. Forget whether.
So we would have to change, that would have to change in the bylaw, because the way the bylaw is written, it says that when you're under enforcement, and a violation letter is just saying, please come back into compliance. You're not, you know, it's not. You're not we've issued very few enforcement orders.
Yeah.
The last one was at Millbrook Terry, and that was after, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
years.
Many, many, many attempts to get them into
Yeah.
Well, but
compliance.
that's the point.
Yeah.
Many attempts. That's what takes time. That's what's really aggravating, right? And those are the people who should be paying money. Find a way to make that happen.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's gonna be much more significant than this. And I'm just fearful because I also don't like the attitude we get when these people come. It's like, oh, it's your problem, not my problem. You know, it's their problem, not ours.
So I can see what you're suggesting, you know, but nominal, I'd say you're suggesting an average, is that what you were thinking about for as a
We took the median.
median?
We took the
Okay, the
median.
median,
Mhm.
I see,
Yeah,
yeah, I can see it. With, I think, Gary's point of an increase for yearly increase.
I think that's just always a good practice when
Yeah.
because it's very hard to get a second bite at the apple and
Yeah.
inflation does reduce
Yeah,
what the fee is. So
It's gonna be at
this-
least 5 years before you.
This
ever
would
get
be an
back
initial
where
fee structure
it's
and
gone up quite a lot with inflation.
the rate to be adjusted annually based on national
Yeah.
CPI.
or you could say every 5 years, you know, if you didn't want to do it annually, but.
Why would you do that?
Well, because
Or
it's,
just put it up.
that does add an administrative burden, because then we're
If you
changing
change-
all,
Oh, I
everything
see,
in
I
the
see, I
guidance,
see.
it changes, you know.
So every 5 years, increase it with the amount of inflation since 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea, because I can see it get complicated if you do it every year.
Yeah.
So are we ready to recommend that to, or how would we go forward? with
Well,
this?
Do we
can I
recommend-
just argue against that? I mean, when you increment it annually, people don't notice the difference, the
Oh.
frog sitting in boiling water.
Yeah,
If you're gonna have step jumps every 5 years, people are gonna
Yeah.
notice and they're gonna be like, why?
okay.
I don't know.
That makes
But
sense.
you've got to weigh that against how difficult it is to implement. If there's just a fee schedule that just, you update your website once a year, seems to me it's pretty.
Yeah, well, that's true. It could just be a fee schedule.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be part of the
Right.
regulation, it would be a fee schedule.
You know,
Right.
I mean, I don't expect you to know, but I wonder if there are other fees in Concord that just go up annually based on the rate.
I mean, I think, isn't that how they? I was
Not
gonna
how
say-
they do the solid waste fees with their, they
No,
don't.
no,
They
I-
vote them in every year.
They
Or
do?
They, no, they don't,
They
they,
don't.
They don't.
there's a separate vote whenever we increase the solid waste, we ever increase the solid waste fees, and there's not an index to anything.
Right.
Is this something we should discuss with the finance committee for their recommendations? Do we have to go to them
Well,
next?
I mean, I would give it to them as a recommendation and they
Right.
can say no.
Oh, right, okay, got it, yeah,
Like
Yeah,
that
that's
would
good
be great.
yeah.
Oh, so if they have no role,
Totally up to
then,
you.
Mhm.
I think so, I recommend the amount you suggested to the finance committee with.
They
with
don't
the-
have a role.
They don't-
They don't have a
Okay, well.
Well,
remember-
just-
The difference here too is that solid waste fee and everything else is just a public, as she says, public hearing. Public Works Commission has a hearing, you set the fees, blah, 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 you go on, so. So, yeah, you don't, you can make determinations every year or every so often based on whatever you think you have to do. The problem here is that once you set these fees, at least in theory, to set them again, would you have to go back to town meeting?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm wondering,
That's where something like
Right.
this is really important.
and I guess
not
that's
if
what I'm
not
wondering.
if you move an article at town meeting that says,
Right, no,
The
that's-
regulations
But that's my
or-
point,
A
that's
regulation
why
with
you're
fees.
not gonna find anywhere else in town
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
that does it.
they
Right.
do the
Because they haven't-
increase
Because they don't
because
have to.
they.
They
haven't
They
thought
just hold a
ahead.
hearing.
No, because they actually, sometimes it goes
Oh,
up
they don't
more.
have to, yeah.
Yeah.
I
they
mean, the
just put it
solid
They don't
waste fee,
have to
the
go-
solid waste fee goes up when you have new contracts
Yeah, yeah,
with the
Mhm.
haulers and all that kind of stuff.
But we
Those-
have to go to town meeting every time.
Yeah,
Right.
And that's what I'm wondering, is it, I don't know if it's possible to ask town meeting. It was,
Yeah.
approved in 2009, but it's a burden to bring everything back, cause.
Well, I think.
so that's why we
what-
need the annual increase then.
That's why I think, yeah, that's correct. Anyway,
Yeah,
Yeah,
and unless you tell us that's just gonna be too burdensome.
well, I think, I don't know, I think I'd probably wanna think about it a little bit.
Yeah,
Karen.
okay.
But I think for next steps for this, you know, if the commission is comfortable with this,
Mhm.
then we can,
Why don't we ask you to construct a fee structure for us to move at town meeting? Would that be the best way going forward? If you could bring back to us the draft of a fee structure, or do you want us?
it's done.
It's done.
It's done.
this is it,
This is
but
it.
Yeah,
So what, so the only
Except-
question you have is whether we have a
Well,
CPI in there.
I would say there are two potential, one is, I think Nick's right, it would be good to think about
Yeah,
the cost
agreed.
and verify that. And, I always hate saying, verify that it's de minimis. What does de minimis mean? Like
Yeah.
1% of
Mhm.
$10,000 a year?
Right.
10%,
Mhm.
it would be good to know sort of what the cost of implementing this would be. And that would include, and then the second change that I would think about would be indexing the
Yeah.
fee schedule. But I think you can do that as an annex that is a fee schedule that gets indexed annually.
Right. Then the other thing that, it's only because this goes back to town meeting for the regulation changes, I think it would be worth the commission looking at the regulations as they stand to see if it makes any sense. I mean, when we drafted those regulations, I don't, now that I've been working with them for the past number of years, there are things about it that I think, like, we have a 75-foot limited disturbance zone because we have the 25-foot no disturb zone that's in the bylaw. We don't ever use that
No.
75, limited disturbance. We don't have the 50-foot no build zone in there, but that's because there's a concern that if you
Mhm.
put it in and there's a lot of pushback, that the whole bylaw could,
Mhm. So you're saying we should review that and see if we want to make any bylaw changes at the
Yeah.
same time?
or either or I think the bylaw, I would look more at the regulations.
Regulation?
Yeah.
Okay.
See if
Yeah, I
they're-
wouldn't put this at the same time. I think these are separate. I mean, look at,
Yeah.
agree, but not in the same motion or anything at the town meeting.
You don't think?
Same warrant?
No, you get into these changes in the regulations and people can debate those things.
Yeah.
Well, let's look
Okay.
and see.
Yeah,
Just
then
go,
maybe
for the- get the money
do for
straightened
the-
out first.
yeah.
I'm not first, but get
Okay.
it separately
Yeah.
from the regulations.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't really talked about Warner's Pond, but I mean, if we're already going with a controversial item to town meeting, I don't know whether we want to load up with 2 or 3 different.
Oh, I can't wait. Well, let's see, I think let's look at the
I
regulations.
mean, this is a clean, a
It's-
question
Yeah, this is.
per fee is a clean,
Yeah.
single
Yeah.
issue item.
yeah.
Yeah, I
If we
agree.
present
Yeah.
it well and have a justification, it
Mhm.
may just go
Yep.
through.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But if you're tying in other things that.
Right, it does get.
Yeah.
And
right.
you also have something that
They
some
come up.
fraction
Mhm.
the town
Yep.
doesn't agree with. I don't know.
But
Okay.
I still think we should look at regulations just to see if, I mean,
Sure.
there may be nothing, it may be a tiny.
Sure,
typo.
that's fine.
I mean, that's
Mhm.
all straightforward, but.
Right,
I agree.
okay,
Was that the thing? Oh, yeah, I was gonna suggest a fee for the consultants who suggest to these people that they should go to the Natural Resources Commission and plead their case for why they should be able to build in the no build zone. I mean, really.
I know.
Okay, let's keep moving. So, now with, oh,
You got
I'm blanking on his
3,000
name.
people.
Brian.
Bert.
Bert's
Oh,
With Bert, I kept thinking Bert.
Bert is,
With Bert having gone, we want to talk about authorizing funds for professional wetland consultant services.
So I,
We have to.
yeah, so I did
Yes.
get approval, to, reach out to, professional wetland consulting firms for up to 20 hours a week for 6 months. My hope is that this is just in the interim while we don't have this position filled. So I got 2 quotes back. I worked out the statewide contract. The first quote was from Epsilon and they quoted $4,630.86 per week. And the second quote was from BSC, who quoted $2,500 per week plus $475 in travel, and I think it would be bi-weekly travel to come and do site visits and, you know, look at different properties. So that the number is incorrect in the thumbnail. The correct amount is $71,175 for that 6-month, 20-hour a week.
That's from, okay, got that. So Julie, a couple things. Have you heard that you cannot hire through the next 6 months?
No, so what I've heard is that Bert's position is on hold until the end of July.
End of July.
And it'll
Okay.
be.
And then it will be reevaluated.
Okay.
So do
That's-
you remember how long it took to hire Bert?
6 months.
6 months, yeah, so.
It's gonna be reevaluated by select board or the
Carrie.
HR board?
The
Carrie,
town
It's
manager.
just an administrative decision.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
she is.
I did raise it at the chair's breakfast meeting this
Good.
morning.
Good.
And actually Isabel from the pollinator committee raised it just before I did as well. So, you know,
Great.
people are aware and talking about it.
Good.
Yeah. Is this number of hours that you're getting enough? I mean, it's.
No. 1940 hours. No, but-
Yeah, but with the budget we have to play with, which is 105 at the moment, this is.
Is that,
Yeah.
so we had, and I wrote it down,
We have 105.
114, so that was as of,
That was, okay.
Yeah, we just,
Blame
well, we just contributed
Just
for
the
4,000, so we have
Yeah.
110,000. So this would take, you know.
Yeah.
70%,
So-
yeah,
so-
60,
so we
70%.
can't- We can't hire, but we can spend this money in consultants, which is actually at a higher rate, right?
Yeah.
It's Epsilon's rate, if you calculated it out, would have been $500,000 for an assistant director's salary.
Amazing.
But you know, there's overhead and there's
Well,
profit.
clearly, we can't do this again
No.
because we've only
Yeah,
got this amount
yeah,
of
one
funds,
time.
but it's so, we will have to do it now. We're not gonna.
No, but normally, these funds have been used for other things during the course of the year.
Very little,
Oh,
very,
okay.
very, it's a very restricted account.
Okay,
So it's really in the implementation of the Wetlands Protection Act. So we use it in Brian's, you know,
yes, okay.
landings, research. And I actually, when I couldn't get a vehicle for a number of years and was driving, was like falling down.
Yeah.
Jalopy, I did ask, somebody at the state if I could use the wetlands account, and I said I would just use it for wetland site visits.
Yeah.
You know, no, you can't
No,
do that. So, you know, you could,
Okay.
No, this is something that's available. You
Yeah.
could use it. Okay, I got
but
that.
it's finite.
Yeah, it is
and it-
fine.
You know,
It's
we
crazy.
collect about
Crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
$80,000 a year in this.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I looked at the two proposed, I'm sure we all did, right? I actually liked, personally, I liked the BSC better. I'm not
Yeah.
sure, did you? Yeah, I mean, first of all, they identified you wrong in the first one. Did you notice that?
Mhm.
The wrong name.
Mhm.
And they weren't as specific as the BSC, which really was right on the concrete mark
Yeah.
in all those areas. So, yeah, I thought it was a better
Good.
group.
Mhm.
Can I have a motion then? Everyone okay?
I made a motion that we approve up to 77,000.
71, sorry,
71,175.
71,175. 71,175. I'm sorry.
Amount for professional wetland consulting services from the wetlands account.
Second.
Thank you. In the vote.
Aye.
All right.
Nick,
Aye, aye.
and I'm an aye as well. Will they start next week?
I haven't, I have to get a contract together, so I'm
More
sending up the approval request tomorrow with your vote, and then once I get that, then I'll send the contract over, so it'll be a few weeks.
Okay, so I think we're down to our last agenda.
I think that's
item,
it.
Committee
which is
appointment.
The
Oh,
appointment.
the appointments, I'm sorry.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we just need a motion.
Yeah.
I need things to do.
We need a motion for,
Please.
we can
Uh,
do it at once, or should we just do committee by committee?
I move that we appoint Bill Kameza as the NRC designee for the Community Preservation Committee through May 31, 2026.
Come on, Jim, seconded that, don't.
No, second.
Yeah, I had hesitation.
No, I got that.
Well.
You get to vote, Phil?
I don't get to vote, do I? I get vote.
Okay, and vote, Phil.
All right, aye. Gordon.
Aye.
I,
Dick? And I'm an aye as well.
But
Okay.
now I would move the slate for the Haywood Meadow Stewardship Committee consisting of Peter Lee, 140 Walden Street, Mary Clark, 26 Bartlett Hill Road, and Stanley Lux, 165 Indian Spring Road, for terms to expire May 31, 2028.
Second.
And the vote.
Aye.
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 I,
Nick? And I'm an aye as well. Thank you.
And I move that we adopt or nominate or appoint the slate of Trails Committee members, including Bill Kameza, Carleen Hempel, and Molly Constable, with terms to expire May 31, 2028.
Second.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Nick?
I,
And I'm an aye as well.
And I move that we nominate Ed Nardi for the 2229 Main Street Oversight Committee for a term to expire May 31, 2028.
Second.
Thank you. And the vote.
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Aye.
Nick?
I.
And I'm an aye as well. And I'm adjourning this meeting at 9:25.
All right.
Thank you.